Hi, I'm Emma, and I live in a small city where people are not too much because I love to live a low-key life, and I so much love keeping to myself. My parents complained several times about this type of attitude that I've cultivated, but that's just me. So as time goes on, they have to take me for who I am. So they already know the type of girl I am, so they always let me be at all time. I'm so much quiet and reserved. I'm not the type of person who likes games or do too much on the daily activities, but I like reading novels and watching a lot of movies, especially comedy movies, because since I already choose to keep to myself, I have to find a means of catching fun by myself. I attend a high school class where students have the choice to do what they like and want. Whenever I'm in class, I'm always reserved and quiet, always. But I do have friends who always love to force words out of my mouth whenever they are around me. I love going to school every day, if not for anything but for the sake of seeing my friends, because I will surely talk whenever I'm around them. On this beautiful morning when I got to class, I noticed a letter was dropped inside my locker, which was so unusual. I decided to open the letter after the class, but while the teacher was in class teaching, all my mind was on was the letter that was dropped inside my locker. Immediately when the teacher left the class, I opened it, and what I discovered was a love letter, which I did not know who dropped it there. I tried to pay so much attention to every guy I came in contact with in class so as to get who dropped the letter, but it was not too available. After a long period of staying in class during the break hour, my friends came to my seat to meet me, and then they all said we should go outside to get something. On our way out, some guys came our way, and trying to get our attention at first, I looked at all of them, thinking maybe it might be one of them that cultivated the habit of dropping the sticky note inside my locker. But with all their facial expressions, I don't think any of them can do such. They tried stopping us, not moving any step out of there, and all we just have to do is to comply. But all of a sudden, a teacher decided to come our way. Then immediately they noticed that the teacher was coming our way. They all left instantly, and we proceeded in getting what we wanted to go by. I told my friends about the sticky note I discovered inside my locker that morning, and they all laughed at me, saying maybe a guy has been stalking me all this while. They then said that one of us should try coming to school very early so that the guy can be caught. But that guy that dropped the sticky note is just too smart and expert. We tried for days, but we could not get the guy, so I told the ladies to forget the issue, that I'm very sure that one day he will surely reveal his identity. As time goes on, it became a regular routine. Every blessed morning when I get to my seat, I will surely find a sticky note with a love quote inside my locker. At some point, I got annoyed and frustrated, but there's no point yelling because I did not know who was doing such a thing. So I decided to stomach it, and I did not tell it to anyone. One day during school hour, a teacher at school was explaining to us a physics experiment, and he made it as a game because he wanted all the students to participate and be carried along. During this process, all students participating closed their eyes and tasted, perceived, and some liquids to tell what it is based on their taste. It was quite fun because all students were carried along for the first time at school, and we all laughed where someone guessed wrong because we all gave various answers, knowing fully well that our tasting boards are different. I really enjoyed the class that day because it was so much different. The following day in class was Friday, so a group of people in class came together and discussed that we should have a get-together party on Saturday, which is the following day. So they asked the whole class about their opinion concerning the party. To my surprise, everyone was happy to hear that they all turned in. Well, as for me, having a get-together party on Saturday, though the plan was a little bit awkward to me because I don't really like associating myself with things like that because I so much love keeping to myself. A venue was picked, and all plan was so fascinating and lovely. Actually, I love the plan because I want to see how it will look for the first time by the beach side, so I decided to hang out that day. When I got home that day, I told my mom about the plan of going to the beach the following day. She was so happy to hear that because she's never seen me going out before. So that night, my mom came into my room and went directly to my wardrobe to select the clothes I will be putting on the following day. When it comes to selecting clothes for an event, My mom is very good at it, and she so much loves me looking good and cute, always. So the day finally came. I woke up so late, maybe because I slept late checking out the clothes my mom was picking for me to wear. I had to rush to the bathroom to have my bath so as to dress up to meet with the event, knowing fully well that I'm late already. After having my bath, I dressed up, looking cute and pretty for the event. After dressing up, I set out for the party immediately. So finally, I got to the venue, a little bit late. And trust me, just as planned, all eyes were on me, because I was so much looking gorgeous and pretty. After getting there, a guy named Sean in my class ran towards me to give me a long hug and a peck. After he did that, I was so shy to take a step away from where I was standing. But from the look of things, he's been a long-time crush. Throughout the party, Sean was all over me, because that will be the first time he will have the opportunity of talking to me and expressing himself. We both have a walk together, and he told me a lot of things about me which I was so surprised to hear. Then I knew he has been the guy stalking me. Actually, Sean has been the guy dropping all those sticky notes with love quotes under my locker. At first, when he told me he was the one, I was so mad with him. Then I told him that he's a coward. If not, he would have come to me himself and not by note. Then he said he did not know what I was going to say because he did not want to be too forward. Then we both smiled and laughed together. Then we moved on with the party. We hung out and made a walk through a beach and had fun, and then we all decided to go to a friend's apartment. So a small group of us went into the apartment, and here comes the idea to play a blind taste game, similarly with a game we once played at school. I was so anxious to play the game, but at the same time, I didn't want to join. I simply refused, but then I thought of it that I am the one who is really good in tasting things and smell very good, so I later decided to participate in the end. So, as usual, the game started and was getting more interesting and fun, but still yet throughout this period, Sean did not leave my side for once. Well, he might be thinking he might not have this type of opportunity again. So everyone's turn during the game came and went, and here it comes my turn. So a guy closed my eyes and pushed my head towards the object. So I tried to perceive the object. I was not getting it. Then I tried touching it with my nose. At first it was a strong object as I touched it with my nose a bit and said, "It's a pen," as it does not smell at all. They all smiled. And then I was wondering what could it be. I then gave another try, but the object this time was softer. I was then surprised, thinking within me, maybe the object has been changed. But then I asked if they changed the object, and changing the object is outside of game rules. They all said no, that it's still the same object, and I thought, what could it be? But I had no answer. After a little moment of thinking, I grabbed the object with my hand to know what the shape of the object looks like. Then I feel it was a tall object, similar to cylinder, and I immediately opened my eyes. I was so much afraid because it is something inappropriate. When I opened my eyes, what I saw was simply a banana, which was so different to what I felt when my eyes were closed and everyone was laughing at me. I was annoyed, and only Sean could notice it then. He came to walk me home. He explained to me that it was a banana, but still yet, I disagree. I just told him to close the discussion. When I got back home, I greeted my mom with a weird look on my face. Then I went straight to my room. She gave me some minutes to be by myself before she came to meet me. Then she asked me what happened at the party. Then I narrated everything to her, not leaving behind the aspect where Sean came to give me a long hug and a peck. She told me not to be annoyed about the game, though I have forgotten about how I felt during the game period because the thought of Sean is now all over me. So Mom asked me to gist her about Sean. So I did, and we all laughed and I was happy all through the night. When I got back to school, I discovered that I did not see the sticky note as usual. Then I looked straight down to Sean's seat, and then I saw him smiling. Then I laughed as feel. So the class started and immediately the teacher came in. Then every other student told the teacher about everything that happened to me at the party, and they laughed. But then the teacher said to me, he will call me one day and tell me a secret behind this game. Then he left the class, but within me I am still not sure if the object was banana at first, or they changed the object during the game, as it softened and changed, and I am still confused, and I will never play that game again. This is the reason why I didn't want to participate in the game earlier. See what it all turns out to be? Please let me know in the comments if you think they've changed the object, or am I just thinking wrong? My Mom and I. Please, real story animated. Make my story animated. Hi, I'm Tiffany, and I'm almost 17, and I'm fun to be with, like adventures, and in my melancholic nature, I love taking risks. But I don't tolerate it when I'm underrated or intimidated. I love my parents, honestly. The open secret remains that their incompatibility is nothing good to write home about, and that's what kills my joy most times. Dad has always complained about Mom's infidelity in their marriage. The last straw that broke the camel's back was on one fateful day I was right in my room while I believed that Mom had already gone to bed. And for all we know, Dad was gone for a business trip in Australia, and we expected his arrival in 2 days' time. Suddenly, I began to hear a manly voice in Mom's room. Could Dad have come back by this time? Oh no! I called Dad's line, and his autoresponder responded that he was in a meeting. That means Dad isn't in town. Then who is this man that I'm hearing his voice in Mom's room? Then, in my suspense mood, I drew nearer to Mom's door to hear this voice better, and lo, it was the black bug guy I normally see Mom drop off whenever she came to pick me up from school. Oh, really? I guess she decided to bring this big guy, Mr. Frank, home tonight, because the dad isn't at home. I can hear the romantic voices and actions, unlike Dad, who isn't perfectly romantic. I started peeping through the door handle. I could not believe my eyes. As cool as the evening was, Mom's body was so inviting to Mr. Frank that he couldn't hold his emotions anymore. And then he made a move towards her. Suddenly, they were already floating on the cloud, gazing into each other's eyes. Frank gently pulls her so close to his daring heart, hoping they do not part ways even for a second. As Mom wrapped in his arms, imagining them taking a journey into time together, breathing passionate words of love into his ears. Like a bolt from the blues, his fingertips stroke softly throughout her hair with such divine affection and care. Frank's body, creating heat of passion, building within, emitting vibes that erupt deep down her gentle soul, and wrap her in his arms, imagining eternity. As he felt the smoothness of her skin, his mind fantasized as their bodies interlocked in the sea of emotions, creating much energy and passion, heating up deep down their souls. The response was too real for Mom to believe this is happening to him. I can see that from Mom's body language. She softly said to him, "Frankie, come and be lost within me forever. I feel myself being a part of you from the onset. That I dragged you into the car has been all about Frank inside my mind, and the seconds fleets into minutes, minutes ticking into hours, and the hours clicking into eternity. It's just a fantasy with such a wonderful design as we both float downstream to where we could be." He kissed her so passionately, holding out dreams of daring chances as I feel like flying on angel's wings with you." Frank whispered to her succulent ears. Just as the cool morning breeze gathers where shadows will be at sunrise, he held her hands with lips locked in unison until they stroll into the path of scented bliss, till the dream ends in the terrestrial sky before the cock crows. Oh my goodness, I realize that I've actually been stooping all night in front of Mom's door, following every bit of their moves. I was lucky enough. It was a Saturday morning, and I dozed back to my room because my sleep was actually deprived of me by the two lovebirds. With the look of things, Mom seems to feel very much safe and cared for with Mr. Frank. Then I began to understand what the bone of contention may be in my parents' soured relationship. Mom really needed a man to care for her and treat her like a queen she is, and not business conference today, business meeting tomorrow. That fateful Saturday morning, I was woken up by the shouts and voices of grievances and anger. And I heard my dad's voice very clear, roaring like a lion, just as usual whenever he is scolding at Mom. I was getting confused more this time. Did I mistake Dad for Mr. Frank? Just as usual, I crept out of my room. This time, Mom's room was not locked. It was wide open. No, it can't be. I have never seen Mom and Dad in such atmosphere of emotions and bond before. When I came close to her room, I saw him. It was Dad. I greeted both, and of course, I didn't expect them to respond to my greetings anyway. They continued in exchanging words. Then I knew there is a fire on the mountain because Dad came back with an early morning flight. He said on getting to Australia, the meeting was held in a jiffy, and he had to make his way back to the state. Then I heard Mom screaming, "Go, go, go!" I'm tired and fed up with all these. It's over between us. That was how Mom and Dad got separated. Then, according to the law, I live with my mom till date believing that someday a miracle will happen and both of them will come together again. However, I love my parents. I just needed more. More care, more attention, more love, and more togetherness. Sincerely, when I see other kids together with their parents go on vacations, shopping, sports, and all that, I feel jealous. During my 16th birthday, I wished I could get all I wanted in my parents. The atmosphere was smiling at me as I blow out the candlesticks, standing in front of a gigantic cake with my both parents standing beside me. One on the left and one on the right, and then they both handed over something wrapped in a gift bag. What could it be? I thought aloud. Wow, it's a phone! I mean, 2 different lovely phones. What a birthday! Then the music was rolled, and I danced and danced in my Cinderella pink gown. Unfortunately, it was a dream. How I wish this is not a mere dream, but a reality. But I believe in dreams becoming reality. I believe it will come to pass one day. Oh yes, it is my birthday. How I wish it would be celebrated in a grand style. It is funny because when I turned 16, my mom promised to buy me a phone. I kept reminding her about that until one day a strange event that I couldn't understand. Something happened after turning me around a couple of times, and for my 16th birthday, my dad wanted to buy me a phone, but my mom never wanted to see me with him or allow him to do anything for me. Note that my mom is this type of independent woman. She insisted that she wants to buy it for me, and I was happy because finally I'm going to have my own phone. On my birthday, Mom did not throw any party around for me. All I got was an early morning pat on my back and whispering, "Happy birthday, my little angel. I promise I'm going to get your phone today." Wow! That sounds interesting, and trust me, I kept reminding her that day. Mom, my phone! On that day, I waited till evening. The waiting was too long. My mom keeps saying a bit later, but suddenly she asked me to dress up, of which I did, although she was acting as someone who was waiting for somebody until finally she got the call from a colleague which she was waiting for, and we head to shopping. I enjoy driving with Mom, so we went in her car. We passed the store where we should stop and buy the phone. Mom, that's the shop, I said in excitement. Rather, she apologized that she needed to visit her colleague at the castle. As a child, there are things I don't debate with Mom. We arrive at the colleague's house, and it was a big house. I loved it. He had 3 cars and 2 dogs. Mom knows that I like dogs, so she said to me, "Tiffany, you play with the dogs, and I will get back pretty quick." "Yes, Mom," I responded. I started playing with Japs and Jade. As I was engrossed in the fun, after some time another man with a big black car entered the house, and then comes another one, and after 5 minutes, another one. I was wondering what is going on. My mom came to meet this colleague, and here are 3 more visitors in there, and I'm not seeing my mom coming out. So I decided to go inside, and upon approach, no one was in the living room. It was silence except the weird noise coming from far away, and it sounded like someone is clapping. One door was opened in one of the rooms, but all of the rooms were dark or less lighted, and I came closer and called Mom. No one answered, and then I came even closer, and the clapping sound started increasing. Clap, 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 and sometimes even faster, clap, clap, clap. And then I heard someone saying, "Yeah," and again, clap, clap, clap. And then I heard the voice of Mom saying, "Yeah, yeah, ah, you are good." Then she increased the speed of the exclamation. "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah! Oh, thank you, yeah, yeah, and finally, yes! Let's do it," I thought. This is a fight, or what's going on? At this moment, I called loudly, "Mom, are you okay?" Everything stopped, and they all get out saying, "Yes, let's do it. Congratulations." But then I asked Mom, what was that clapping noise? And all that she said was, I pitched them an idea for a startup business, and yes, they agreed to fund the project. But then one thing that got me thinking was the physical appearance of the 3 men. They were sweating profusely, looking like men that just engaged on a physical combat, sapped of all their energy with this post-ejaculation, their minds numbed down, tired, and walking slowly, gulping down some drink. Immediately we went to the store, but while we were going, I asked her what were those weird noises, and she said it was nothing serious. They were all excited. And yes, I know she was excited because when she got out from that room, she was a bit reddish in her face somehow, and her voice was cracky, because she really shouted so much. My mom also told me not to discuss what happened with anyone for any reason. I knew she was warning me about this because of my dad. He calls me every 2 days to know what's happening around Mom, and she also told me that this need to be kept secret forever. Forever? Why is she holding this event so tight? For me, I see no big deal in it. Oh, but I will adhere to her instructions. With my sense of curiosity, I also asked her, why are all her colleagues men? There is no other female amongst them except you. She responded that they couldn't make it that day, but would come in the next meeting. I'm glad that finally my mom is happy, and she's going to make her dream come true. And I've got a new phone. But what was weird is that my mom never started that business, and now we are almost 1 year from there. This also means that my phone is 1 year old, too. But I hope she will buy me a new one when I turn 17 next week. What do you guys think? What should I do so my mom will buy me a new phone? Please, like this video if you think it was not a business consultation. And leave a comment if you think it was something else going on.
I left my sound at max on the phone accidentally and watched an 18+ video on Bath. My name is Jessica. I am 20 years old. I live in Florida. I had a very rough background because my mom died while I was 15 years. The death brought me a lot of pain. 5 years after, I am yet to recover from the death of my mom. I haven't forgiven my dad since my mom died because he was among the causes of my mom's death. The doctors confirmed that my mom died as a result of internal bleeding. My dad was a drunkard. He usually comes home drunk every day. My mom kept telling him to stop, but he didn't. One day, he came home drunk. My mom talked to him like she used to anytime he comes home drunk. I didn't know what came over him that day. He hit my mom. He hit her severely that she had to be rushed to a hospital. After 3 days, my mom was discharged from the hospital, but she was still not 100% okay. She fell sick again, but she didn't go to the hospital early. When she died, the doctors carried out an autopsy on her. The result of the autopsy showed that she died of an internal injury that she sustained when my dad raised his hands on her. My dad was sorry for his action, but the deed has already been done. He was charged with manslaughter, but he was later released after spending 2 months in prison. 3 years after the death of my mom, my dad remarried. He married a woman from Florida. He invited only a few people to the wedding ceremony because he didn't want people to know that he was getting married. I didn't get to meet the woman he married until the night of the wedding when she came home. She came with a 12-year-old boy that has another father. I didn't want to live with them, but I had no option. I graduated from primary school a few days after my dad's wedding. 6 months after, I enrolled in a high school. When I got to high school, I made a lot of friends. After closing from school, I will go to my friend's place. Sometimes, I will be there until late in the evening before I returned home. I was just happy with anything that will take me away from my dad's wife. One day, I came home very late. My stepmom was curious to know where I was coming from. She started ranting in the sitting room that I am fond of going out and returning late. She said I am a small girl and that is not good for me. From the bottom of her heart, I knew her advice was good. But she wasn't doing it with good intention. She intended to spike my father up against me. She continued ranting in the sitting room. She expected my dad to say something, but he didn't. He kept looking at her. When he finished eating his food, he went straight into his room. The next day, my stepmom's son Philip saw me sitting in the sitting room and he sat close to me. At first, I wanted to leave his sight, but I noticed that my dad was looking at me, so I kept my calm. A few seconds later, my dad walked away from the sitting room. Philip noticed that I was waiting for my dad to leave the sitting room so that I can walk away from him. Therefore, as soon as my dad walked away, he started begging me not to leave. I asked him why he was begging me. He said he knows what I wanted to do. I asked him what he claimed to know. He said he knows I want to walk away from him. He said I should not do that. I asked him why I should be sitting with him when we have nothing to discuss. He said he has something to discuss with me. I said he should say whatever he wants to say because I am listening. I was already up from my seat when I was talking. He pleaded with me that I should sit before he can say what he wants to say. For a while, I told myself that I do not need to transfer the aggression in me to him. I thought within myself that he wasn't the one that offended me. I sat as he instructed and I told him to say what he wants to say. Philip started by apologizing. He said he knew his mom went overboard yesterday. He said since his mom came to the house, we have been living like enemies. He said it's not supposed to be like that. He said we are all living in the same house, so we should live like one big family. He said there is no gain in living like enemies in the same house. I sat down for a while and thought about what he said. I thought within me that everything Philip said was the truth. I said to Philip that I understood everything he said perfectly. I said I don't have any issues with his mom. I said I just feel like his mom doesn't like me. I told him that I think that his mom sees me as a threat. He said his mom does not see me as a threat. He said his mom is a very nice woman. He said the issue I am having with his mom was because I have not fully understood who she is. He said once I understand her perfectly, we wouldn't have issues again. He said he would talk to his mom and make her see the need to live as one happy family. He said he knows his mom will listen to him. I told Philip that I don't have any problem with his mom. I said if she is ready to live with me peacefully, I will also live with her peacefully. Philip left the sitting room and went into his mom's room. I didn't know what he told her, but I believed he told her about the reconciliation. 20 minutes after, Philip and his mom walked into the sitting room. I didn't look at her face because I was still angered by what she did to me the previous day. She then sat close to me on the couch and asked for forgiveness. She said she knew we haven't been living as a family since she came into the house. She said she knows that the fault is from her. She said she is ready to make amends and make us live like one big family. I was happy to hear that. I told her I don't have any issue with her. I said she is old enough to be my mom. Therefore, she ought to take me as a child. I said she ought to treat me the same way she treats her son Philip. She said I should forget what has passed and let us start a new chapter. I told her that I heard everything she said. She said to prove to me that she is happy with me, she will cook anything I want for dinner. I told her to prepare what my dad wants rather than what I want. She said my dad doesn't have any issue with shat she cooks. She said my dad eats whatever she cooks without complaining. She said I have to mention what she will prepare for dinner. I told her to cook fried rice and chicken. She said my chicken will be the biggest. She left after I told her what to cook, but Philip remained in the sitting room. Philip and I discussed a lot of things. He asked about my academics and other stuff. He urged me to show him anything that I have been taught in school that I do not understand. At exactly 7 p.m., my stepmom served dinner. She sent Philip to call my dad, who has been in his room since morning. When my dad came to the dining, he was surprised to see me eating in the dining with my stepmom and Philip. Before we settled our dispute, I do not eat in the dining. Anytime I am served my food, I either eat it in the sitting room or my room. Another thing that surprised my dad was the way Philip and I were talking while we were eating. My dad was forced to talk. My dad said he cannot understand what is happening in the house. He said whatever it is, he is happy with what he is seeing. He said this is how we are supposed to be. He said we are supposed to be one happy family. My stepmom told my dad that we have settled all disputes and we are now living as one big family that we are. My dad was very happy. He said my stepmom has just made his day with what she told him. He said what he heard calls for celebration. He said we should all prepare to go to the beach the next day. Philip and I screamed when we heard about going to the beach. None of us have gone to the beach before. I have been hearing about how fun the beach is, but I haven't had the opportunity to go. So, when my dad mentioned the beach, it was as if he knew what I wanted. After dinner, we all went into our separate rooms and slept. Philip and I woke up very early the next day in anticipation of visiting the beach. After taking my bath and putting on my dress, I went to check on Philip in his room. When I go to his door, I knocked and Philip answered. Philip said I should wait for him in the sitting room because he is taking his bath. I walked back to the sitting room and sat alone. I put on the television because I was bored and there was no one to talk to. 10 minutes later, Philip joined me in the sitting room. He was looking very handsome. He sat close to me and we watched television together. 20 minutes later, my stepmom and my dad came out of their room. My stepmom was already prepared while my dad was still not prepared. My mom went into the kitchen so that breakfast will be ready before my dad finished his preparation. 20 minutes later, my dad came out prepared. No sooner had he sat down in the sitting room than my stepmom called us to the dining. We ate breakfast as a family. After eating breakfast, we walked straight to my dad's and drove off to Miami Beach. We left home at exactly 10:20 a.m. and we arrived at Miami Beach at exactly 11:50 a.m. Miami Beach is a good sight to behold. It has a beautiful environment. Fun seekers from all over the world were gathered at Miami Beach. We had a lot of fun. Philip and I played in the water. We ate a lot of things that were sold there. The beach was in a carnival-like mood because it was during a public holiday. We ate together and drank together. We took photographs together too. We enjoyed ourselves as one big family. We left Miami Beach at around 6 p.m. We got home around 7:30 p.m. When we got home, we sat in the sitting room and talked about our experiences at the beach. My stepmom did not bother to go to the kitchen because we had already eaten to our satisfaction at the beach. At exactly 9 p.m., my dad left us and went to his room. A few minutes later, my stepmom stood from her seat and walked to her room. Philip and I continued our gist after they left. We chatted until 11 p.m. before we both went to our respective rooms. I was happy throughout that week. When I got to school on Monday, I told my closest friends what happened in our house. It surprised them a lot because they didn't know that my stepmom could be that nice. My closest friend Evelyn promised to visit me by the weekend to have a feel of what our home looks like presently. When I got home on Friday, I told my stepmom about Evelyn's visit. She was very happy to hear that Evelyn was visiting. She said she has a place to go on Saturday, but she will wait for Evelyn's arrival before she leaves. Evelyn arrived at our house as early as 9 a.m. She ate breakfast with us. After we ate breakfast, my father was the first to leave the house. He said he wants to visit his childhood friend Mr. Patrick. He said it's been a long time he saw Mr. Patrick. 15 minutes after he left the house, My stepmom left too. She told us to take very good care of ourselves. She said we should make sure the house is tidy before she returns. When she left, Evelyn and I went to my room while Phillips remained in the sitting room. Evelyn and I chatted for hours. We talked about school, careers, and many other things. At exactly 2 p.m., Evelyn told me she wanted to leave. She said she doesn't want her mom to start calling her cell phone number. I followed Evelyn to the gate. We hugged each other and we waved at each other. When I returned to the sitting room, Philip was still sitting there. I sat on the couch in the sitting room and we started chatting. Philip began to ask me about my friend. He asked me how I met Evelyn and I told him that she is my classmate and my closest friend in school. He asked me a lot of questions about Evelyn and I gave him answers according to what I know about her. The last question that Philip asked that made me realize that he had an interest in Evelyn was when he asked me whether Evelyn has a boyfriend. I said since I know Evelyn, I have never seen her with any man. I said we used to talk about men like girls do, but none of us has a girlfriend. He said what if she has and I don't know. I said Evelyn is my classmate and my closest friend in school. I said there is nothing that Evelyn will do that I won't know about. I said if she has a boyfriend, I will be the first person to know. After I answered him, I asked him why he asked me all those questions about Evelyn. He said it seems he likes her. I asked him if it seems he likes her or he likes her. He said he likes her. He said he wants me to help him talk to Evelyn since we are friends. He said Evelyn will listen to me better than him. I said I will do my best. He promised to buy me a very nice gift if I talk to Evelyn on his behalf. He asked me what I want as a gift. I said I want iPhone 12. He said if I am available to convince Evelyn to date him, he would buy me iPhone 12. As soon as I heard that, I started thinking of the strategy that I will use to win Evelyn's heart for Philip. I didn't want that iPhone 12 to pass me by. The next day in school, I took Evelyn to the school's restaurant during the break. I bought her chicken and wine. After she finished eating the chicken and wine, I told her that I have something important to tell her. Evelyn said she knew something was fishy when I bought an expensive chicken and wine for her. She asked me what I wanted to tell her that made me spend an expensive amount on buying chicken for her. I said I want to tell her about my stepbrother Philip. She asked me what happened to Philip. I said since the day she came to our house, Philip has not allowed me to rest. I said Philip has been disturbing that he likes her and he wants to date her. As soon as Evelyn heard that, she busted into laughter. She said she laughed because Philip saw her that day and he didn't tell her anything. She said if he loves her as she claims, he should have been the one to approach her. I told Evelyn that Philip that I know is very. I said he doesn't have the charisma to talk to a girl. I said that doesn't mean he is weak. He is just like that. I said to Evelyn that she cannot find anyone better than Philip. I said he is the best she can find anywhere. I reminded Evelyn about the role that Philip played in reuniting our family. Everything I was doing was because of iPhone 12. Evelyn said she has heard what I said. She said she will take her time and decide on what to do. She said she will get back to me with her final decision. I told her that I will be waiting to hear from her. While we were going home on Friday, Evelyn said she will come to our house the next day so that she can see Philip for herself. She said if she sees him, maybe he will be able to talk to her himself. When I got home, I met Philip in the sitting room as usual. I told him that I have talked to Evelyn and she has decided to visit us the next day. I said he should do everything to convince her. I told him that I have done the difficult part of the job. I said what is left is just for him to add to what I have done. I told him that the main thing Evelyn wants is to hear it directly from him. I said if he tells her himself, she will accept immediately. Philip thanked me. He said he will do his best to convince her when she comes too. While I was walking into my room, I kept remembering Philip about his promise. Philip said if Evelyn agrees to date him when she comes tomorrow, I will get my iPhone 12 by Monday. Evelyn came to our house at exactly 11 a.m. on Saturday. When she entered the sitting room, I deliberately excused myself from the sitting room so that I can leave her with Philip. I went into my room and hid behind the door so that I can hear their conversation. 5 minutes after I left, Philip and Evelyn were looking at each other without saying anything. The anger that was in me from where I was watching them couldn't be quantified. After some time, Philip began to initiate a conversation with Evelyn. He started by asking Evelyn about her academics. Evelyn answered him well. Next, he moved to what Evelyn likes and what she dislikes. Evelyn said she likes reading and traveling. Philip said he also likes reading, but he doesn't like traveling. He said he is always afraid of an airplane. Philip moved closer to Evelyn and began the main conversation. He asked Evelyn if I have talked to her about anything. Evelyn told him that we are friends, so we talk about a lot of things. Philip said what he was trying to ask her was whether I have talked to her about him. Evelyn said I have talked to her about him, but she wants to hear it from him. Philip said if she wants to hear it from him directly, then he will say it. He told Evelyn that she captured his heart since the first day he saw her. He said he has seen a lot of girls, but she is so special. He said she is better than all the girls he has been seeing. Evelyn smiled. She said that is how a lot of guys do when they want a woman. She said if they get what they want, they will change their attitude. They would forget about all the promises they made when they were wooing the girl. Philip said he is not like that. He said he is ready to stand by his words till the end of time. He told Evelyn that he loves her and he wants her to become the mother of his unborn children. I could not be more proud of Philip from where I hid. I was enjoying the way he was putting his sentences together. After going back and forth, Evelyn said she has heard what he said. She said she will look into what he said and she will give him a reply as soon as possible. A few minutes later, I came out from my where I hid pretending like I didn't hear everything they said. As soon as I entered the sitting room, they kept quiet as if they weren't talking before I came in. After a few minutes, Evelyn told me that she wanted to leave. I asked her why she was leaving so early. She said she has some laundry to do at home. She said she will also help her mom in the kitchen. When she walked out of the sitting room, I followed her immediately. I asked her whether Philip was able to talk to her. Evelyn said Philip told her what she wanted to hear. She said she was very impressed with the way he put his sentences together. She said she likes him. She said she wants to take her time before she gives him a reply. I quickly interjected when I heard that. I said she doesn't need to keep Philip waiting anymore since she claims she likes him. Evelyn left after we talked at the gate. I hurriedly walk into the sitting room so that I can talk to Philip too. As soon as I entered the room, I walked straight to Philip. I asked him how it went. I pretended like I didn't know what happened. Philip said he knows my friend would have told me what happened. I lied to him that I didn't ask her because she was in a hurry. Philip said he was able to express his feelings to her. He said he told her his mind and he hopes she will yield to his demand. Philip said Evelyn promised to get back to him as soon as possible. Before I left for school on Monday, I made up my mind that I will do everything to convince Evelyn so that she can quickly yield to Philip's demand. Since Philip told me about the iPhone 12, I have been dreaming of it. After the assembly, I quickly went to Evelyn's sit so that another person won't sit close to her. As soon as I sat, I started my motive. I told her to talk to Philip as soon as possible. I said she should possibly give him a reply today. Evelyn wanted to know why I was trying to rush her. I said Philip is a good guy and he deserves the best. Evelyn said she will come to our house during the weekend. She said she wants to tell him herself. I was so happy when I heard that. When I got home, I told Philip that Evelyn has agreed to date him. I said she would have called him to inform him, but she doesn't have a cell phone. I told him that Evelyn promised to come during the weekend so that she can inform him herself. Philip said if Evelyn comes on Saturday and says what he wants to hear, I will get my iPhone 12 on Sunday. As soon as I heard that, I started dreaming of Saturday. I would have moved that Monday become Saturday if I had supernatural power. As the days were going by, I was just anticipating Saturday. Finally, the day I was waiting for arrived. Evelyn called me at exactly 9 a.m. that she was on her way. When Evelyn arrived at our house, she met a full house because my parents were still at home. A few minutes later, my dad left for work because he had an emergency. 1 hour later, my mom told me to follow her to the mall to get some stuff. We all left the house leaving Philip and Evelyn. When we left, Evelyn told Philip what he wanted to hear. After telling him, they had explosive sex. When we returned home, we met them in the sitting room watching television as if nothing happened. 1 hour after my mom and I returned from the mall, Evelyn told me she was leaving. When I followed her to the gate, she told me that she has told Philip that they can start dating. When I returned to the sitting room, I started whispering to Philip about my iPhone 12. At exactly noon on Sunday, I heard a knock on my door. When I opened the door to see who was at the door, I met Philip standing in front of my door with an iPhone 12. I screamed very loud when I saw my new phone. As soon as I collected it, I took it to my stepmom and my dad. They were so happy for me. I didn't know that Philip bought 2 phones until the next day when I was going to school. As soon as I walked out of the gate, Philip called me back. When I went to him, he gave me another iPhone 12. He said I should give it to Evelyn. I became speechless. I was just looking at Philip without saying anything. I was wondering how happy Evelyn will be when she sees her new phone. When I got to school, I told Evelyn that I have a big surprise for her. She wanted to know what the surprise was, but I wasn't ready to tell her immediately. I told her to guess what the surprise might be. She did all the guessing, but she didn't even come close. After some minutes, I brought out my iPhone 12 from my bag. Evelyn became speechless. She didn't see me with an iPhone when she came to our house on Saturday, so she was wondering how I got an iPhone between Sunday and Monday morning. I told her that it was Philip's that gave me the iPhone 12. She was speechless. She said she didn't know that Philip is that generous. I told Evelyn that the surprise I am talking about is not my iPhone 12. After some minutes, I brought out her iPhone 12 from my bag. Evelyn was shocked when she saw me with another iPhone 12. I said this one is the real surprise. I handed the phone over to her and I told her it's a gift from Philip. Evelyn was speechless. She was wondering how she could get a big gift from someone she just started dating a few days ago. We took pictures with our phones. I snapped Evelyn with her phone while she snapped me with my phone. Evelyn and I enjoyed using our phones. We use it most times in school. Most times, some of our friends used to come to us to borrow our phones to snap pictures. Because of that, a lot of pictures were stored on our phones. I was with Evelyn one day when she told me about what happened between her and Philip on the day she came to our house. She told me how she and Philip had sex. She told me how good Philip was in bed. When I got home that day, I wanted to ask Philip but I cautioned myself. Since then, I have been looking for a way to have a taste of Philip. I wanted to experience what Evelyn experienced. My urge for sex with Philip led me to download porn videos on my phone. I started watching 18+ videos uncontrollably. The next Saturday, my dad and my stepmom attended a wedding ceremony, leaving only Philip at home. Because I was bored in my room, I came to the sitting room to watch television. I did not enjoy the programs on display. Therefore, I connected my phone to the speaker. The videos on my phone were playing one after the other. The speaker's sound was at max. Therefore, Philip heard what was going on in the sitting room. A few minutes later, I left the sitting room to take my bath while the videos were still playing. As soon as I started bathing, I heard the porn video on my phone playing in the sitting room. I had soapy water all over my body, so I couldn't rush out. I hurriedly took my bath and rushed out to stop the video that was playing. When I got to the sitting room, I met Philip. I couldn't say anything. He looked at me surprisingly. Philip was wearing short trousers, so I could see his anaconda. As soon as I saw Philip's anaconda, I remembered what Evelyn told me. I knew it was my time to enjoy what Evelyn enjoyed. I moved closer to Philip and I grabbed his anaconda. Philip didn't resist. You could tell that it was what Philip has been dreaming of. We kissed and romanced each other right there in the sitting room. After 20 minutes of romancing, we went to my room and had proper sex. The sex was explosive. I saw what Evelyn told me myself. After that day, Philip and I continued to have sex until we both got married. Hey, guys, please let me know if this is right or if this is what I should do, or please let me have your thoughts on this.
Hi guys, my name is Anita, and I am 17 years old. I am energetic and passionate about life. I hate to be on the losing side. I have experienced a lot of things that a girl my age shouldn't experience. I can't say that I lack the basic amenities of life. No. On the contrary, I have always had the things I wanted. Some of which were provided to me by my father, others, I was made to get myself by my mother. One could envy me from a distance, but when you come close to me and come into my world, you will discover that all the happiness, love, joy, and care were just an illusion, and my open world is not one you would desire. I had money but lacked the attention of my parents. Yes, our home was broken. I am the product of divorced parents, whose relationship was a mistake on the part of my dad and manipulation on the part of my mom. I stayed with my mom, who never really cared how I was doing except when she needed to use me for her games. My dad would trade anything just to be with me, but my mom kept me as leverage. Dad never knew the real me, and mom didn't care. I'm sure that if my dad knew what his ex-wife was turning his daughter into, he would fight tooth and nail just to make sure I was taken away from her. Mom had us relocating on a constant basis, and so, I never had a steady life. I never had regular friends. I was here today and gone tomorrow. My academic life was as good as dead. I was no better than a dropout. We had to change schools frequently too, and whatever we went, Mummy made me lie that my dad was dead. This was something I never told Dad. People seemed drawn to me out of compassion. The girl who lost her dad. There was a time when I usually found myself wishing that things were different. As a growing child, I would find myself wishing that I had parents who could see eye to eye. It was just too much for me. I am who I am today because of my mom. And I am not grateful to her. She exposed me to the realities of life faster earlier than necessary. I can clearly remember the first day I saw people having sex. It is a memory I guess I would live with for the resting my life. There is nothing that I wouldn't give to wipe it off my mind. I can vividly remember coming back home from school really tired, wishing I would just for once run into the loving arms of a mother, only to have my dreams broken. I got home that day and found the door locked. Ask went by the window, I saw what I hate to remember. There was my mom used by two men. I was horrified at my bones. I couldn't move. I just stood looking with tears pouring out of my eyes. After about 10 seconds, she turned her head, only to find her 12-year-old daughter crying. I ran away. I didn't know where I was running to. I just kept running. I didn't care where I was running to. I just wanted to run away from what I had just seen. I was broken. I was bitter. I didn't know when I finally ran back to school. I would rather stay in school than go home to such torments. I don't know how long my mom looked for me. I don't even know if she ever looked for me, but she came to pick me up after management called her. On our way home, she tried acting nice. I can't remember the excuses she made, but she somehow made me promise not to tell Dad about it when next we spoke. Although I promised to keep the secret, that night, I was broken. Until then, Mom had been like an angel in my eyes. Spotless, a sweet soul. How she could stoop so low to do such a thing was something I couldn't tell. I tried crying myself to sleep because the nightmare was happening with my eyes wide open. I prayed that it would just be a bad dream once I woke up. Very early the next morning, Mom actually started acting like nothing bizarre happened. She seemed like the mom I had known, but no matter how hard she tried, the wound was fresh, and it would take us a long time to heal. That ordeal was the first of many. Soon, she got tired of hiding her shaft deals from me that I got used to seeing various men at our place. Why Mom chose to live that kind of life, I could not tell. When I grew older, I understood why she tried her best to beat poverty. My mom was from a poor background. Her parents were extremely poor. It was so bad that they had nothing but hatred towards her when she was given birth. Her parents hated her for coming into the world. They cared less if she lived or died, and she was usually at the mercy of the good-hearted people of the community. She never knew what it meant to be loved. Although they shared the same house, everyone lived on their own. Her father lived for himself. Her mother lived for herself. Her sister lived for herself. Her half-brothers lived for themselves. Nobody cared for anybody. If anyone was sick, nobody cared. If anyone died, nobody cared. I learned that Mom once ran away from her home for 3 days, and nobody cared if she was alive or not. The hatred was too much in the family. It was really a dysfunctional family. The parents had resentments for the children, and the children reciprocated the same gesture. It was regular to find her father fighting with her half-brothers over money, or Mom was seen fighting her mom over something trivial matter. Her parents were often heard saying that their biggest regret in life was the failed abortion of all their kids. There was a time when my mom fought with her mother over a man. Her mother claimed that she was now going after her clients. Yes, Grandma slept with different men in the same bed she shared with Grandpa. The fight between Mom and Grandma was nothing new, but the comments made by Grandma fueled the hatred Mom had for her. Grandma told Mom that she would never amount to anything in life. Mom said to her that being nothing in life was better than ending up like her. However, she vowed to be better than her mom. The neighbors were constantly entertained by the family drama. Mom's family was everything terrible you could imagine. It was a jungle, and everyone lived like an animal. The school was not an option for the children because nobody was going to pay, so each child learned to fend for himself from an early stage. Mom was really smart. It seemed as though she was the smartest of all the children. She knew that sleeping with boys who were wallowing in poverty just like her would only turn out bad for her, so she decided to go for those who were better off than she was. She was going to go for the educated and wealthy. She soon started visiting bars and brothels where they were high and mighty patronized. Her game plan was to make a rich client develop emotional feelings towards her, and by so doing, she got him wrapped around her fingers. However, she soon discovered that nobody was willing to form a bond with a harlot, so she decided to take a different route. That was when she met my dad, Tony. Tony was from a wealthy family. He was from a good home. He had me raised with a high level of moral standard, and his parents had lots of expectations from him because he had been given a lot. He had a religious upbringing, and he was never allowed to do the kind of things other kids did. He didn't date girls, he didn't go for parties, he was just made to focus on his career, and he exceeded expectations. As a result of his parents' wealth and influence, he did very well. Tony was now a man, and due to his background, he hardly thought about marriage. He had zero thoughts about dating and getting married. He was into his work. This soon gave everyone around him, especially his parents, concern. They soon began advising him to get married. His company held a party to celebrate their achievements, and his colleagues persuaded him to lighten up and join them at a bar. It was while he was there that Mommy spotted her next big fish. She approached him while he was with his friends, and they happily excused themselves. Mom quickly knew that Tony was a newbie in places like that. He declined the glass of wine she offered him, and when he finally gave in to her request for a dance, Mom had to guide his steps on the dance floor. Soon after the party, Mom took him for an after-party, which led to her becoming pregnant. Dad was full of regret. What was he going to do? How would he tell his parents that he had gotten a girl pregnant outside wedlock? He was scared of aborting the child as he didn't want to put either mother or child in harm's way. His religion forbade abortions. He finally decided that it was best he just got married to her. He took her to his parents, and when they questioned her, she lied that her parents were dead and she had to fend for herself. The marriage took place before the pregnancy became obvious. After the childbirth, he learned he had made the worst mistake of his life. One which could ruin him. Mom resumed smoking immediately after I was born, and her thirst for alcohol couldn't be satisfied. She turned the home into a mess, and even though she would never lack since she was the wife of a millionaire, she was never really satisfied. She kept on going to parties, and while I was still months old, Dad couldn't understand why a mother would be this reckless. It was clear that she didn't know how to love. I guess that you can't give what you don't have. Dad finally decided to get a divorce from her when he caught her sleeping with one of his staff, and he discovered that her parents were still alive with 6 children. It was more than he could take. He cared less about the consequences. After her marriage to Dad, Mom traveled down to the community where her family was staying. Being a billionaire's wife, she went with her car and driver to spite her family. She needed to show her mother that she finally ended up very well. It was the talk of the town. She had changed her name from Rachel to Cindy. She spoke in an accent that was foreign to her community. She threw money in every direction except towards her family. The hatred was deep. Her family was not going to let her be. They traced her down to the city and made several claims about being her family, but she simply told her husband that they were just frustrated beggars who were out to take advantage of other people's success. Tony believed her. However, after so much pestering, Tony decided to give it some thought, and he paid an agent to investigate the issue. The findings were shocking. They were Mom's family. Dad traveled down to the community where they lived to see for himself. The people of the community gave him the history of his wife. Dad was shocked by the bones. Mom always had surprises for him, but now, he had had enough. He drove back to the city in anger, only to find one of his male staff sleeping with his wife. Now nothing would hold him back from getting a divorce. He told his parents, who were in full support of his actions, and the divorce proceedings commenced. Mom got a good fortune out of it, and she was awarded my custody. Something that Dad didn't want her to have. Dad was made to pay her a certain amount every month, which would include Carter for the needs of both mother and child, and he could see me twice every week. Mommy didn't seem to care. She had won either way. She would no longer have to dance around with poverty anymore, or so she thought. Within months, she had squandered the money gotten from the divorce, and we had to live on the monthly allowance. This allowance was never enough for Mom, and so she decided to play her game again and get another prey. This made us go from city to city. This made my claim to not have a father. It wasn't until I was 14 years old that my mother finally forced me to have sex. The men who usually visited the homes where we stayed would often make passing glances at me. They complimented my beauty and would whisper something into Mummy's ears, after which she would nod her head and say that I wasn't ready. When I turned 14, Mom made me follow a young man home. I guess he was twice my age. He was the son of one of her older male friends, and I later learned that the man wanted his son to get intimate with the lady because he heard him say that he was attracted to men. So, when this friend of Mom paid her a considerable amount, she called me and asked me to follow the boy home, and we should both enjoy ourselves. We got home, and I was amazed at the beauty of the house. I had only seen such places in the movies. The servants quickly arranged dinner for the both of us, and we ate in his room. It was clear that everything was new to him as they were to me because I could tell that he was more nervous than I was. We played a bit, and he kissed me. We soon found ourselves trying to make the night a success story for our parents, and we eventually did. When I was driven home the next day, I was really embarrassed by Mom took the opportunity to give me some lecture on sexuality. I watched her glow with pride as she said that I had been initiated into womanhood and that it was a phase every girl must pass through. She said it was a privilege to have had my first encounter with the rich man's son. I didn't even know his name, and I was sure that he didn't know mine. This was how I got introduced to life, and it didn't take long before I became a pro in the area of dating. My mom and I soon formed a partnership. She would have me put the best schools where the kids of the wealthy usually went. I was to identify them and get close to them. Through them, I would then give her access to their father. Mom had no issues making these men fall for her. She was beautiful. Far beautiful than myself. This was how Mom sustained the luxurious life she had so come to know. It was when we moved over to a new city and I was enrolled in a new school that I met Pete. Pete was a charming guy, but he was not really my type. He was naive in every sense of the word. I played the pity game and got the empathy of the class. Pete was moved by my story. He never knew that I was moved by his father's wealth. He was an excellent combination of intelligence and wealth. I soon had Pete solving problems for me, academic and financial difficulties. I had learned to be manipulative, just like Mom, so I had no issues making Pete think I was genuinely interested in him. Mom would always warn me not to lose focus or get attached to any guy because we were not going to stay at a place for long, so I had never had a serious relationship with anyone. I don't even remember a time in my life when I had feelings for a guy. I was just taking them for a ride. Pete soon invited me over to his house. He had wanted me to meet his dad. When I arrived, the dad was still busy and Pete and I just sat at the lounge talking. When he finally came to join us, I was overwhelmed by his presence. He had such charisma and confidence that every lady would want her man to possess. When I saw him, I almost doubted the fact that Pete was his son because he was way handsome. His light baritone voice carried with it such authority that made his servants loyal. When he came, Pete immediately introduced me to his father, Mr. Xavier. I was smitten. I watched his whole body as he talked. He was the complete package. He asked about me, and I talked about myself. I gave him the usual story that I had given everyone else about my dad being dead and my mother working hard to make ends meet. They all bought the story. Everything went perfectly that night. After dinner, Mr. Xavier asked that his driver drop me off. I wasn't pretty sure that I had impressed him that night because he seemed to pay little attention to me. However, I looked forward to coming over again, not seeing Pete, but seeing his dad. Mr. Xavier. However, although I was intrigued by him, I knew that the story concerning his escapades with ladies could be true because he never seemed interested in my mom when I spoke about her. Mr. Xavier was an oil magnate. He never remarried after the death of his first wife, who died during childbirth. He wasn't ready to settle down with any lady because he knew that they only came around because of his wealth. Losing the woman whom he had struggled with was really painful for him. His wife was everything to him. His success story would never have been written if not for her sacrifices. She was his motivation. She saw things in him which nobody ever saw. When he was starting up, things were not very smooth, but she stuck with him and she gave him every support which he needed. He was really a mess, but she fixed him up. He was scared that she could leave him at any point in time because she had the opportunity to ditch him for more affluent guys, but she always reassured him of her undying commitment towards him. It was clear to Mr. Xavier that his lover was an angel sent to him from up above. He owed her his life. His life was now worth a lot simply because of the investment she made in him. He proposed to her as soon as he could afford a ring, and although she had no reason to say yes, she did. She was willing to risk her life for him. After they were wedded, she further intensified her efforts towards the growth of his company, and 5 years into the marriage, he was already a billionaire. That was when she became pregnant for Pete. Mr. Xavier was so happy when he got the news of her pregnancy. They were finally going to get an addition to their family. He made plans for them. He put things in place for the delivery. He actually got his wife a surprise house and a private jet just to say thank you. It was, however, a sad day for him when he was told that she didn't make it. He felt terrible. It was as though his world had just crumbled. He experienced a kind of pain that he had never known in all his life. He felt empty inside. His wife had just left a space that would be impossible to fill up by anyone else, and although he found consolation in the child which she left behind, he made a vow not to remarry. He knew that he would have a hard time finding a lady who wouldn't love him because of his money. A few months to his wife's demise, he began visiting clubhouses, and that was where he slept with a lady who claimed to be pregnant for him. He wasn't going to make the mistake of getting married to this harlot. That was a mistake a friend of his had made years back. He, however, took care of the lady who claimed to be carrying 2 children on the inside of her. He made sure she was comfortable and lacked nothing. He was willing to accept responsibility and take care of them all, but it was soon discovered that the lady had been lying all along. The pregnancy test was positive, and she did have twins, but they were not his. Although he didn't send her to jail for extortion, he quickly took back the car and house that he had given her. This further strengthened his resolve to be on the lookout for women. A week after I had met Pete's dad, I fell ill and missed school. This was our plan to get Pete to come to visit, and he did. When he arrived home, Mom quickly made him feel comfortable. She was good at that. Pete immediately fell in love with her personality. She was giving the love of a mother which he had never known or experienced. All through his stay, I was eagerly waiting to hear him say that his dad sent regards to me, but he didn't. While looking at him talk or laugh, I could only think about his dad. What was happening to me? Why was I falling for his dad? This was the first time in my life that I would really be interested in someone, and it just had to be my boyfriend's dad. Pete gets home feeling overwhelmed by the love shown by my mom. It told his dad all about her. She lit up a spark in him that his father had never seen since he was born. It wasn't surprising when Mr. Xavier invited Mom and me for dinner at his place. We knew that our plan was making progress. The day finally arrived when we were going to meet with Pete and his dad. I was eagerly looking forward to it because I wanted to see Mr. Xavier again. Mr. Xavier sent his driver to come and pick us up at about 7 p.m. We arrived at their home, and everything was well placed. We were led to the sitting while we patiently waited for our host to show up. I watched Mom feast her eyes on the eloquence of everything. Not even her billionaire ex-husband had such taste. I could read her thoughts from the look on her face. This was a big fish that would take a lifetime to consume. I knew that she was already playing a scene in her head where she would wake up in that house and boss the servants around. Before long, one of our hosts arrived. Pete. He was smiling and happy to have us around. I was sure he would have a nervous breakdown if he knew that he was expected but not wanted. I watched Mom put up a fake smile. It always baffled me how Mom could play different characters at once. How could she be good one time and bad the next? Mom was a wonder. While we were all seated and getting comfortable, I had the familiar voice that I was longing to hear. It was Mr. Xavier. His perfume filled the air. Our attention was immediately shifted from son to father. We all stood up to greet him, and he seemed impressed. He invited us to the dining table for dinner. Mom and I were blown away by the kind of service his staff rendered. Mom avoided every topic that would lead to her ex-husband, which we claimed was dead. She acted hurt by the painful memories of the past when Mr. Xavier asked about her husband. I don't know how she did it, but tears just flowed out. I almost believed that they were real. This woman never ceased to amaze me. Mr. Xavier felt bad that he had asked her about the past she was trying hard not to remember. He personally understood what it meant to lose someone you loved. He had had the same bitter experience. He apologized to Mom for making her uncomfortable, and Mom simply played the victim. We never wanted the night to come to an end, but it did. I was not particularly glad that Mr. Xavier and Mom spent most of the time together. That night was the beginning of another adventure for us. Mr. Xavier frequently began inviting us over to his place at weekends. He would sometimes persuade us to spend the night at his house. Mom had warned me not to get intimate so quickly with Pete so that I didn't appear like the cheap girl that I already am. She equally didn't give Mr. Xavier easy access. This made him all the more interested in her. She didn't seem like other women. She rejected his cash gifts and even turned down his offer to buy her a car. She didn't seem interested in his money at all. She always wanted things put in order, and I was amazed at her meaningful contributions to discussions centered on the oil and gas sector. I repeatedly asked myself how a lady who had never seen the four walls of a classroom had such knowledge. Her charm was finally catching up on Mr. Xavier, who saw more of his wife in her. The closer the holidays came, the closer Mom and Mr. Xavier became. I had no other option than to stick with Pete. I guess a bird at hand is worth more than 1,000 in the bush. When the holidays arrived, Mr. Xavier suggested that we go for a vacation somewhere in the Maldives. The Maldives is a living wonder. It was a sight to behold. We saw things we never knew existed. We visited places, went fishing, and partied. This was the kind of life that Mom desired, and we were living it. Everything was just perfect, even though I still wished Mom and I could trade places. I wished that she could settle with Pete while I would be left with his dad. It wasn't their first time coming there, though. Almost all the staff was well acquainted with Mr. Xavier and Pete. They looked at us as though there were others who had been in our position. Well, it didn't matter to either of us because we were occupying the position now, and we were not going to leave anytime soon. It was on our second day there, while Pete and I were taking a walk, that I discovered how deep he had fallen for me and how deep his dad had fallen for my mom. I listened with a grin on my face as he told me that he had never felt this way in his entire life. He confessed to me that this was the first time he was feeling complete. He said that this was the first time he actually knew the joy that came from a whole family. He then told me about his birthday that would be coming up in 2 weeks. It was going to be celebrated at home with most of his father's colleagues and friends present for the occasion. He said that all he desired for a birthday present was to move in with them permanently. I was glad that we had gotten this family, but I somehow felt bad because I knew that this chapter would soon come to go close, and they would be negatively affected once we left because they sincerely loved us. I then told him not to make decisions or wishes like that because his dad may not be in support of it. Although I knew that his dad wanted a relationship with my mom, I told Pete that his dad may just want to have both families as friends and nothing more. At that point, he told me what I never saw coming. Pete said that he has never been this way with any woman before. His dad always came alive when my mother was around. Pete said that he overheard Dad telling his friends that he had found a span just like his ex-wife and he was going to propose to her during my birthday celebration. This was it. We were almost there. I couldn't wait to tell Mom even though Pete told me not to. This was good news. When we got back home, I broke the news to Mom, and she was overjoyed at the prospect of becoming a billionaire's wife once again. Life had finally given her a second chance, and she wasn't going to take it for granted. She wasn't going to let anyone, not even her family members, ruin this golden opportunity. She would never go back to her community to show off. Mr. Xavier told Mom about the birthday party and asked that we both be present. He had a popular designer design a dress for her, which was worth $10,000. Mom and I showed up that day. We actually came earlier than most guests. Mom pretended as though she never knew what was set to happen. She was an actress indeed. While my mom was going through the guest list, her reaction suddenly changed. She immediately had us sneak out of place. We picked a cab and drove home as fast as we could. Once we got home, she asked me to pack up my bags quickly because we were relocating. I was surprised. Why should we migrate to another city now that everything was beginning to fall in place? As we boarded a train, she told me that the third name on the list of guests was Mr. Tony. My father. I knew that this meant that I would never see or hear from my boyfriend, whose dad I fell in love with. Hey guys, what would you do if you were me?
Hi, I'm Mira. My boyfriend, Lopez, and I are the perfect match for each other. We have our ups and downs, but beyond that, we are good for each other. We love mysteries and games, and that was why we decided to stay at the Albertsons, Lopez's parents' beach house in Miami, before it is placed for sale. What we didn't realize was that we have to grow up. At the beach house, we had so much fun as usual. It was going as we had planned until we found this old safe. All we could see were pictures and nothing else. But these pictures isn't what we were expecting in the old crooked safe. We wanted more. But all we could lay our hands on were these old pictures. Do they worth the effort? You're about to find out. I, Bruno, my baby brother, and my papa live in the countryside. My mum died during Bruno's labor. It has then been my duty to take care of him. I was his mother figure. My father hadn't considered remarrying since then. I think he had considered it, but he might be scared of how I would react. But deeply, I don't care. My father works with a security agency at a multinational company not far away from home. Due to the nature of his job, he stays at work at night. So, when I was young, I spent most of the time with the Albertsons, our neighbors. Initially, Lopez and I were not on talking terms. I did visit the Albertsons' residence to play with Rodrigo, my only friend. People might think we might end up dating, but we are too close to be dating. Rodrigo is my very good friend. We planned everything together. We never made any decision behind each other. As kids, we had our own rules and codes which were still effective until recently. We needed to grow up. Rodrigo was a smart kid and his vision was to become a scientist. He got us into a lot of trouble with his little science projects. Lopez was quite older than us. He never participated in our games, and it looked like he and his little brother aren't close. Not a bit. They did fight over every little thing. Lopez was 2 years our senior, and he only talked with people of his caliber. I looked older than his age, and he is a lot mature, but he easily gets himself into conflict. I didn't like him at all, and Rodrigo did tell me a lot about him. I knew I sickened him, and he disgusted me too. Lopez wasn't as smart as his little brother, which made him get some harsh responses from his parents. But he is good at playing football. The coach once told the school that he had a great future ahead of him if he keep up the pace. We always anticipate a holiday. The Albertsons and I spend the holiday at their beach house in Miami. My father would take Bruno to Aunt Nina's to spend the break. At the beach house, we had more space for our little experiment, and it was convenient to blow things up. Lopez did go to the beach to party. He was never at home. Mr. and Mrs. Albertson tried varieties of things. They tried yoga and some weird religious practices. Lopez and I wondered how they enjoyed those things. The only thing they did that we are fans of is the different types of cocktails they made. As kids, we would take some sips whenever the duo wasn't looking. Mrs. Albertson was a very good cook. She loves to bake as well. She made her recipes. I did assist her in the kitchen. During those times, we did have a heart-to-heart discussion. The beach house was our haven. Lopez and I started tying knots when Rodrigo and I were in grade 10 and Lopez was in his finals. I was at their place that afternoon to see Rodrigo. I went to Rodrigo's room, but he wasn't there. I looked around the house but could not find Rodrigo. I then decided to go check for him in the backyard. As I opened the door to the backyard, I was Lopez swimming in the swimming pool. He was flabbergasted to see me. I didn't notice a thing until I saw him covering his rear with his 2 hands. He asked me to turn around, and I obeyed immediately. "What are you looking for?" he asked with a shaky voice. "I am here looking for Rodrigo. I didn't know you would be here," I responded. "As you can see, Rodrigo isn't home," he rejoined. I was about to leave the backyard when he called on me. "Please help me with my underpants that is on the line," he requested of me. I got the underpants, trying my possible best to look back. I threw the underpants, but my aim was poor. It fell in the water. Lopez had to swim to get it. The underpants were wet, but he didn't have any other choice but to wear them like that. I was still standing with my back turned towards the Lopez and my right hands on my face. He came out of the pool and tapped me. I was startled and looked at him. He is a tall and well-built young man. "Thank you," he said, pointing to the wet underpants. "I am sorry," I responded. He left me behind and found his way to the main building. That wasn't surprising. He does that a lot. Since Lopez wasn't home, I left the Albertsons' residence. I texted Rodrigo, who didn't reply to my message. I should be worried because that would be the first time he would ever go out without telling me first, but the scene with Lopez was on my mind. I couldn't get it off my mind. Rodrigo called me later and apologized. I wasn't interested in his plea. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Lopez. I couldn't believe that I was smiling. Am I in love with Lopez? No, this can't be happening. Even if I showed my advances, Lopez would not even look at my side. And if he does, Rodrigo might not talk to me again for having intimate affairs with his brother. And I can't afford to lose Rodrigo. I had spent my whole life with Rodrigo. Getting separated from him would hurt both of us. I don't want to be the cause of our parting. I tried to get Lopez off my mind by spending the night talking about life with Papa. I slept off after a few hours discussing life in Mexico. From that moment henceforth, I tried showing my intentions to Lopez. He wasn't even looking at my side. Rodrigo may have noticed because he had been acting kind of funny, but he didn't say anything. After several trials, he took up the courage to ask him out physically. He just looked at me and walked away, leaving me standing. It was as if I was not there. From that day on, he would just smile whenever he set his eyes on me. Was he impressed, or he was making fun of me? Lopez and his classmates were preparing for their prom, and my class was also trying to create an event for the end of the year. I and Rodrigo were also busy trying to pull stuff. All our effort were futile since all Rodrigo could pull was not social enough. Eventually, my class settled for a kissing booth. Lopez was nowhere to be found. I think he wanted to look best for his prom. The day of the prom had come. I persuaded Rodrigo to attend so that I could see the graduating boy. Rodrigo was reluctant at first but obeyed our rule number 5. Do not let down your bestie's request. At the hall, Lopez's classmate came in twos, male and female except for Lopez. He was the only single guy at the party. I felt sorry for him, but my hands are tied. For the first time in a long time, he recognized us. He kept waving his hands at us at every opportunity. He took some photos with us. That night, Lopez and Rodrigo had their first brother thing. They had several shots, joked, and played some manly games. Eventually, the two of them got drunk. I had to help the two brothers home. It wasn't easy. I got a taxi and got them home safe. At their place, I assisted Rodrigo to his room first. The boy slept off immediately. I came down to help Lopez to his room. Lopez was so drunk that he was just speaking gibberish. He laughed more often. We eventually made it to his bed. I dropped him. As I was about to take my leave, he held my hand and murmured some words which I didn't understand. I successfully left his room. I called Papa, telling him I won't be coming home that night. He was fine with it. I made myself comfortable on the sofa. I didn't know when I slept off. The next morning, Lopez was the one to wake me up. "Thank you for yesterday," he said as he grinned. Before I could say you're welcome, he left for the swimming pool in their backyard. Rodrigo followed him. He was still hanging over the previous night's drunkenness. He sat beside me on the sofa, crossed his hand around my neck. "I love you," he said. "You will forever be my best friend." Oh, what a relief. I can't imagine dating Rodrigo. After skipping through various TV channels, he eventually decided to join his brother at the swimming pool. Mrs. Albertson came downstairs, greeted me, and headed straight to the kitchen. I followed her immediately. We chatted a little as we cooked for the boys. Most of the discussion that day was about boys. I didn't feel comfortable, but I enjoyed it. Mrs. Albertson had been the closest thing I had to a mother since my mum died from Bruno's labor. She is always there for me. After the cooking, I summoned the courage to join the boys at the poolside. To my surprise, the two boys were having fun. Wow, that was amazing. I stood at the poolside, trying to join in the ongoing moment, unknowing to me. Rodrigo pulled me into the pool. My dress got wet, but I love it too. It was a day I would never forget. After the whole fun, Mrs. Albertson served us our meal. Everyone ate and Lopez joined in our stupid games. He was not good at following rules. He cheated his ways to victory every time, but we didn't care. It was fun for us. Bruno came looking for me, but instead of telling Papa had called upon me, he made himself at home and started playing video games. The day was fun. Bruno and I got home later that evening. Papa wasn't home, but he left a letter behind. He had gone for his security duties. I cooked before leaving. We served ourselves, had a little of siblings jiffy before going to bed. On my bed, I was exultant. I took my phone and started chatting with Rodrigo. We chat for quite a time before saying our goodbyes. I slept off instantly. I was very tired from the day's activities. After an incredible weekend, it was time to prepare for the kissing booth. My class pulls this off. Rodrigo got a kiss from her dream girl, Lara. It seemed she also had a crush on the guy. I was quite jealous. All my classmates had been paired with their secret lovers. It was my time to receive the surprise kiss. I was blindfolded and I was meant to wait. I waited longer than usual. I was about to lose hope when someone drew my head closer to give me a passionate kiss. This is surely Rodrigo, I said to myself. I was so thankful then I remembered Rodrigo had never kissed before. He can't be this good, and more so this fellow was quite sporty. Unlike my Rodrigo. I took of the fold and lo, it was Lopez. Everyone was cheering us up. I caught the big fish. A graduating student gave me a surprise kiss. After the passionate kiss, Lopez then asked me, "Will you be my girlfriend?" I wanted to say yes, but when I looked at the audience, Rodrigo is gone. And Lara shrugged, realizing I was looking for Rodrigo. I couldn't say yes, even though I wanted to. I left at once looking for Rodrigo. I eventually found Rodrigo alone at the cafeteria. I guessed he wasn't too happy with the show. I can't blame you. I would have done the same thing if I was to be in his shoes. I sat beside him. We didn't speak for a while. Then I said, "Rule number 13, be happy for each other no matter the situation." He looked at me in dismay and there was silence once more. Finally, he spoke. "This isn't right," he said. "You can't be in an affair with my brother. It is going to affect our friendship. It is going to be weird seeing for kiss my brother while we sit side by side. I thought he was your big brother too." He kept talking. I thought he wasn't going to stop and I would just stay muted and listen to him all night. Then I heard, "Don't you have anything to say?" Oh, finally, it is my time to say something, but there is nothing for me to say. I summoned some courage and told him that I guess Lopez likes me. "Do you like him?" he revolted. I think I responded slimily. "Since when has this been going on?" he asked once more. "Tonight," I answered. He looked at my face and said, "I am happy for you, but you should have told me earlier. Let's go celebrate." Lippy. I almost jumped off my feet. But I kept cool. On our way back to where the event was taking place, we met Lara, who was looking around for her newly found boyfriend. Lara was the shy one and she barely talked. But I guessed, the two are united by science. Those are the best two in the class. Funny enough, they don't compete. Rodrigo introduced Lara to me as if we had never met before. "Lara, this is Mira, my best friend, and Mira. This is Lara, my girlfriend." Lara looked at him in awe while I laughed. I couldn't believe what I just heard. Lara rested on him and he crossed his hand around her neck. While that was going on, Lopez showed. He smiled at his little brother, who could not pretend he is disappointed. Then he came for me. He took me by the hand and said, "Hi guys, who cares for some drink?" "Don't get me drunk like the last time," exclaimed Rodrigo. Things were going on fine between us until it was time for Lopez to go to college. There was this unhappiness within me. Rodrigo didn't care. He spent most of his time with Lara now. I am happy for them. But it was my time to be lonely. Lopez promised me he would call every day. I pretended to be fine with the suggestion, but I would miss my newly found soulmate. As promised, Lopez keeps the tab every day. It has now become a routine. We always talked about how we spent our days. He talked about his newly found friends. Lopez's new clique is made up of 3 other boys and a girl. I requested for their picture, which he sent without asking him twice. There I saw Happy. You can't believe it. If Happy had competed for Ms. World, she would have won. She's the most beautiful creature I had set my eyes on in the last 17 years of my life. I wouldn't have suspected anything if the lady was sitting a yard away from my Lopez. But instead, She was sitting right next to him with her hands all over Lopez. I started getting suspicious of Lopez. Who would want to start honestly with a high school guy when you have a beautiful college girl within your reach? No one, and this time, not even Lopez would. I asked him who she was. He said they're just friends. I wanted to believe him, but I didn't believe him. Who would have believed such things? I called him a liar and stopped talking to him. I called and texted, but I didn't respond. Time had passed. Rodrigo and Lara are doing very fine. Lopez and I had not talked for a while now. We are now in our finals. It was time for our prom. Being single felt weird. Lopez and Lara had gotten admission into the same college. I was still keeping my admission on hold. I wanted to be a lawyer, not a science guru like those two. And our rule number 4 is to attend the same college. I wanted to go to the same college as Rodrigo, who had been adamant about it, but I have a career to pursue myself. I had to lie to him that I had chosen the same college as his. He was very happy that he hugged me. I told him not to tell anyone yet since I want to surprise others. It didn't make sense to him, but he obliged. The other college is the same as Lopez. I think a little part of me was still with him. Prom was fast approaching. I had a dance competition to perform in. I had been paired with Wilson. Wilson was really good. I would have loved to partner with Rodrigo, but he had been his usual self since he met Lara. We still talked, but not as we used to. So, I had to settle for Wilson. Wilson seemed cool, and there was nothing between us. Little did I know that this guy really liked me, or he might just be infatuated. At the dance competition, we were the last to be called upon. Towards the end of our performance, the audience had started applauding us. After the last move, Wilson kissed me. I played along because I didn't want to embarrass him on stage. While I was deep in the kiss, I saw a figure standing up from the stands and left. I recognized that person. That was Lopez for sure. I rushed up the presentation and ran after him. I looked everywhere but could not find him. Then hello. A female voice from behind said. I looked back. It was Happy. So, Lopez came from my presentation with her little girlfriend. I looked at her as if she fell in a pit filled with swine shit. To my surprise, she didn't react at all. She smiled at me and stretched his hand for a handshake. We shook hands and she requested of me if we could talk. Yes, I said reluctantly. I wasn't comfortable with the discussion because she was speaking to me as if she was my elder sister. Then she asked the big question. Have you moved on? I looked at her face. We are here today because Lopez wanted me to see her little girlfriend that stopped talking to him because of me. Lopez had said a lot about you and I wanted to see it for myself. I was disappointed in myself. I hadn't moved on, I replied. The guy, Wilson, we aren't dating. It was part of the performance. To kiss, she exclaimed. Wilson added, we didn't practice that. I replied. Where is Lopez? I asked her in quite a hurry. I don't know, she replied. I don't know anywhere here. Do you mind taking me around? We stood up and took a walk. Even though we came first, I missed the award presentation. I didn't care anymore. I wanted to reconcile with Lopez as soon as possible. We ended up at a bar. She demanded we take a few shots. I couldn't decline. We started with dry gin till we get to vodka. This girl is good. If addiction is a polite word, I would have used it, but it isn't. We competed and I lost on every count. We built a close relationship within hours. While we are having a splendid time, Rodrigo, Lara, and Lopez came by. Lara and Rodrigo came close while Lopez stayed in a distance. I guessed he was still angry after the show I made. I walked towards him, gave him a peck and whispered in his ears, there is nothing between me and that guy. He said, if I see that guy, I promised, I am going to punch him in the face. I love you, I replied instead. He grinned as I dragged him towards the others. We had a night of our lives. Happy left the next morning. Guessed Lopez would be staying home for Christmas. We were enjoying the break. I and Lopez finally had our intimate moment. The young man is good. I stayed in his place for a week straight. This Christmas, Bruno will be staying at home. He is now 10. He told Papa that he is old enough. He wanted to go camping with his best friend, a girl. Papa was fine with it. I got suspicious, but did not need my advice on this one. I got home after a week. I missed my little brother. I wanted to see how he was doing. The little guy didn't need me around anymore. He was doing the cooking. washing, and setting the house all by himself. I asked him how he pulled this off, all by himself. He told me that when I was not at home, Papa had been seeing a nice lady. She helped a lot at home and she taught me some things. Papa was going to ask you if he should propose to her, he continued. There was this mixed feeling within me. I was happy for him, but introducing a new person to the family feels weird. Bruno was fine with this. I would soon be going to college. Someone has to take care of Bruno while I am away. I sighed. The house looked different. I couldn't find things where I had known them to be. My time in this house is almost over, I guessed. I got to the cabinet to get myself something to eat. I was about to sit down and grab the remote when Papa showed up. He settled down a while from the night's job before initiating a discussion on the new lady. Her name is Doris, he mentioned. She is a nice lady, he continued. I wasn't comfortable discussing my father's wife to be with him. He did all the talking. He told him he would be going on a date with her, where he would propose to her. Can I go ahead? He asked. Yes, of course, if you like her. Moreover, Bruno does, I replied. I eventually found a good reason to flee. The next morning I came back home. No one was home except for Doris. I was shocked, so she had started sleeping over. She introduced herself and we exchanged regards. She was quite nice as aforementioned by Bruno. Although there was this weird silence in the house, we tried to converse a little. While we were both enjoying the TV program, Papa showed up in a new coat. He said he and Doris are going on a date. As he was about to leave, he asked me to wish them luck. Good luck and have fun, I responded. Doris waved and grinned at me as the duo left for their date. I was about to rest when I received Rodrigo's message. It reads, "We are off to the beach house. Are you in?" This was the perfect excuse I needed to provide privacy from my dad and his new butterfly. I quickly got some stuff packed in a small box, dropped a note for Bruno to say goodbye, and left the house. The Albertsons wanted to put the beach house on sale since they would be retiring soon and all their kids will be going to college. No one would be visiting the beach house anymore. Lopez suggested we had a meeting with them. At the meeting, the two made known their plans. Rodrigo and Lopez were able to convince them. They said their parents should permit us to stay for a while. During the stay at the place, we would take care of the place and make it perfect for sale to attract wealthy buyers. Mr. and Mrs. Albertson agreed to it. We enjoyed our stay at the beach house. Rodrigo and I unraveled all we had done when we were kids while Lopez and I made love at night. Laura also came to visit. We all joined the big party at the beach. Wilson also came around. This is weird. Lopez suspected I was the one who invited him. I told him I was not the one. Things got on the tension between Lopez and Wilson. I had to beg Wilson to leave, even though it was against his will. He left. Again there was peace. After a while, we were tired of fun as we prepared for college and make the house ready for sale. Laura had left for his parents' place. Papa does call sometimes. He is doing fine with Doris and Bruno was enjoying himself. While we were arranging the house, we saw an old safe. Lopez carried it out. It was made of metal and it had a lock. Rodrigo and Lopez tried calling their parents as regards the sacred old safe. They didn't say. They concluded that it might be there before the Albertsons bought the beach house. This news spurs the two brothers to make a heist, their first to be precise. They tried cutting off the lock but to no avail. Rodrigo was tired of the stress, while Lopez was angry about him unable to open the safe. They later found out that what was in will remain in, if they tried any more stupid things. After thorough attempts, they decided to get a lock specialist. On the day of the heist, the lock specialist came. He didn't look like someone that could pull such a thing. He was just a nerd. She even came along with a Scotch bag. At first we thought he had his tools in the bag, but later we found out the bag was empty. He just loves carrying that bag. He started tending to the safe. The guy is good. He opened the safe just within 5 minutes. We expected to see some antiques, cash or precious stones. The lock guy opened the safe and hissed. He adjusted his glasses and went to Lopez to collect his cash. He left immediately. I guessed he was disappointed. Lopez and Rodrigo rushed to the safe to open it. "What is this?" shouted Lopez. "Our childhood photos. Is this a joke?" Rodrigo went forward and started checking through the pictures. He was enjoying himself. I moved forward and joined him. We both enjoyed the pictures. We made jest over it. It was fun for us, but it wasn't for Lopez. He was angry because he just wasted some cash on an old safe filled with memories. We are happy after this event. We placed the house on sale, and we had concluded to move on. Rodrigo and Lara moved forward with their school, while I followed Lopez to his college. It was a happy ending for everyone, and we realized we needed to move on. I reunited with Happy, and Lopez introduced me to the rest of the crew. Lopez had learned to control his anger issue. Today, we still joke about the old safe. The mystery is that, who kept our childhood photos in a safe and locked them? That we don't know. All we knew was that we had beautiful childhood that we can't return to anymore. So sad, but we have to grow up. We have to grow up. My 17th birthday was just a few days away, and I needed a new pair of shoes to celebrate my birthday. I like ordering items online because they are cheaper. No week passes by that a delivery man wouldn't deliver some goods at my door. But I wanted to celebrate my birthday with a new shoe. I didn't want to celebrate my birthday in my old shoes. Even though most of the shoes I have, I don't usually wear them. On this fateful day, I was at home doing nothing, so I decided to order a shoe for my 17th birthday. I do not have a lot of friends, therefore, I am planning my birthday myself. I was sitting on the sofa when I heard a knock on my door. When I opened the door, I met a charming-looking young man who came to deliver my order. I couldn't take my eyes off him because of his charming looks. The delivery boy noticed that my eyes were fixated on him, so he didn't want to look at me directly in the eye. "Hi, I am Alyssa," I introduced myself to him. I was the one that ordered these pairs of shoes online. This time, the delivery boy raised his head and told me that he was aware that I ordered the pair of shoes. He said that was why he is at my door. He handed over the pair of shoes to me and turned back to take his leave. While he was walking towards his bike, I checked the shoe he delivered to me and I noticed that the shoe he brought was not mine. "Hey sir, please come back," I quickly called him. When the delivery boy returned to where I was standing, I told him that the shoe he brought was not mine. I told him that I was very sure because the pack looked too small, and I do not believe that my shoe can fit in a small pack like the one you gave to me. The delivery boy came back smiling and told me to wait. "Oh, it's another pack. The first pack I gave to you was for my mother, and she ordered a pen or something." The delivery boy collected the shoes he gave me the first time and gave me the original shoe I ordered. I was already having him in her dreams at that time. I was already looking forward to having him in her arms all day long. At this stage, I knew the only way I can have the delivery boy is by inviting him for a coffee. When he handed the shoes to me, I invited him for a coffee, but he resisted. After much pressure, he obliged and entered my room. When the delivery boy entered my room, he decided to stand. I was not comfortable with the way he was standing, so I told him to sit on the sofa. When he sat, I sat close to him and started engaging him in a conversation. I quickly excused myself to get him water from the fridge. When I brought the water to him, we continued our conversation. I had already fallen in love with the delivery boy, so I wanted to know everything about him. I thought the best way to start a meaningful conversation with the delivery boy was to ask personal questions. I thought I would be able to persuade him through my speech. I wanted to ask her the first major question. I thought it will be better if I ask about his family first. I know before he answer all my questions, I would get what I wanted. "So, tell me about your family background." No sooner than the delivery boy start talking about his family than I excused myself again. This time I quickly went into her bedroom. I changed into a sexier outfit that would attract the delivery boy. When I came out of her bedroom, I noticed that the delivery boy could not stop looking at her cleavages. I started whispering in her mind. I knew I was getting closer to what I wanted. "So, I am all ears. Tell me about your family background." "I was born into an average family," he said. "My mother and my father do menial jobs to support me, my brothers, and my sisters. I have 2 brothers and a sister. My brother works in a post office as an accountant while my sister works as a hairstylist in a salon. I am the first child of my family, so it means I gave a lot of responsibilities to shoulder." Alyssa asked him when he started working as a delivery boy. He said I started working as a delivery boy immediately after I left high school. I left high school at the age of 18 and I am 24 years at the moment, which means I have been working as a delivery boy for the past 6 years. I asked him if he has any plans of going to college. For now, he said I still see myself as a delivery boy, but I am saving up to enroll in college in the next few years. I have always dreamt of becoming a computer engineer since I was a young boy. I would do everything humanly possible to achieve that goal. Oh, I also want to study computer engineering in college too. It seems that we have a lot of things in common. I just graduated from high school and I will want to try other things before I get enrolled in college. My love for the delivery boy continued to increase while I listened to his story. I didn't want the conversation to stop because we were already making eye contact. I want to know about your hobbies. My hobbies are traveling, watching football, reading, watching movies, and listening to music. My love for traveling was one of the reasons I took the delivery job 6 years ago. I wanted to flow with the conversation and I wanted the delivery boy to believe that we had a lot of things in common, so I told him I also love traveling, even though I am always indoors most of the time. I asked him the countries he has traveled to. To my surprise, the delivery boy said he has never traveled out of the United States. He said he has only traveled to some states in the United States like Florida, Texas, Alabama, and New York. The delivery boy asked me a question for the first time in the conversation. He asked about the countries I have traveled to. Pardon my manners, I pleaded. I said I didn't ask for his name since we started the conversation. He told me his name is Mike. He said he didn't ask for my name because he has already seen my name on the parcel he delivered to me. Now back to the question, I said. I told him I have traveled to the United Kingdom, Spain, France, and Canada. He asked me the reason I traveled to those countries I mentioned. I told him I visited those countries mostly on vacation. You said you like watching football. Which football team is your favorite? He said, although I live in the United States, my favorite football team is Barcelona Football Club. I support the Barcelona Football Club because of Lionel Messi. I do not watch football because I do not like it, Alyssa said. Even though I see a lot of women playing football nowadays, I still believe it is a men's game. Who knows, I might start supporting Barcelona Football Club because of you. I will be very happy if you do that. You will enjoy watching Barcelona Football Club because they play sexy and attractive football just like you. Did you just say I am sexy? Alyssa asked. Yes, you are, the delivery boy replied. At this moment, I knew I was on her way to getting what I wanted, but I wanted to take my time. I thought the best way of continuously getting closer to him is to continue the conversation we were having. So you said you like reading, can you tell me about the books you have read? I have read a lot of novels. I have lost count of the number of novels I have read. Although, the majority of the novels I have are romance novels. I just love romance novels. If I may ask, why do you like romance novels? Alyssa said. I like romance novels because I want to be romantic. I want to be a romantic boyfriend for my girlfriend. I don't want to be a boring boyfriend. That is interesting, Alyssa said. So, tell me the names of some of the novels you have read. I will like to have them too, I said. I also want to learn how to be romantic. If that is the case, I will help you bring a lot of romance novels that I have. Do not stress yourself by going to the bookshop, the delivery boy said. I got up and embraced the delivery boy. She said she was very happy with his kind gesture. After the hug, I returned to where I was sitting. This time, I moved closer to Mike again. You said you like movies too, so tell me the movies you have watched. I was more interested in this movie aspect because I am a lover of movies too. Most times when I am in my room, I am always watching movies. I like comedy movies, the delivery boy said. I love movies that make me laugh and take off the daily stress that I have passed through at work. So, tell me your type of movies too, the delivery boy asked. Alyssa said. I love romantic movies a lot, Alyssa replied. The same way you said you have lost count on the number of books you have read, is the same way I have lost count on the number of romantic movies I have watched, Alyssa told the delivery boy. I like romance movies because they are always lengthy. I like romantic movies too, Mike said. I do not watch them because they are very lengthy, and it takes a lot of time to watch. You know I am a very busy man, so it will be difficult for me to watch lengthy movies, Mike said. That is the reason I love short comic movies. I can watch them within a few hours, and they help me relax well as I said before. Alias said she will want Mike to follow her to the cinema very soon. Mike obliged and promised to follow her to the cinema when he is off duty. Alias couldn't contain her joy when Mike told her he will follow her to the cinema. She said she can't wait to go and have a nice time at the cinema with him. Now, let us talk about your music taste, Alyssa said. Tell me the types of songs you listen to and your favorite artists. I am a big fan of R&B songs. I like songs that are slow and have strong lyrical content. I was smiling after Mike's explanation. So tell me who your favorite artists are. I am a big fan of Chris Brown and R. Kelly, Mike said. I told Mike that I want us to play a game. I told him that I want to know if he is a big fan of the artists he mentioned. I told him that I want him to list 10 songs of the artists he mentioned as his favorite. Mike laughed and he started listing it. Mike said he will start with R. Kelly. Mike said some of R. Kelly's songs that he knows are I Believe I Can Fly, The Same Girl, It Seems That You Are Ready, I'm a Flirt, Down Low, Trapped in the Closet, If I Could Turn Back the Hands of Time, Fiesta, Sex Planet, I Wish, You Remind Me of Something and Half on a Baby. I was wowed as Mike continued to list R. Kelly songs. I am surprised, Alyssa said. But you have to list Chris Brown songs too for you to win the game. Mike nodded his head and kept smiling. Mike said some of Chris Brown's songs that he knows are Forever, Blow My Mind, Undecided, Don't Wake Me Up, Track Star, Run It, Take You Down, New Flame, Under the Influence, Loyal, No Guidance, and Go Crazy. You won. Now I agree that you are a big R&B fan and you are also a fan of Chris Brown and R. Kelly. Mike also returned the gesture. So, tell me your type of music and your favorite artist too, Mike said. I told him I love R&B songs too. Mike asked who my favorite artists are. I told him I like Celine Dion, Rihanna, and Beyoncé. Mike told me that I should also mention 10 songs of these artists I mentioned. I said, so you want me to mention 10 songs because I asked you to mention 10 songs. I said, okay, I accept the challenge. I started with Celine Dion. I said some of Celine Dion's songs that she knows are My Heart Will Go On, I Surrender, It's All Coming Back to Me Now, All by Myself, The Power of Love, To Love You More, I'm Alive, Have You Ever Been in Love, Ashes, A New Day Has Come, Beauty and the Beast, and Just Walk Away. I told him that some of Rihanna's songs that she knows are Umbrella, Diamonds, We Found Love, Love on the Brain, The Monster, Don't Stop the Music, Only Girl, Desperado, Work, Rude Boy, Needed Me, Pour It Up, Towards the Sun, and Man Down. Lastly, I said some of Beyoncé's songs that I know are Say My Name, Crazy in Love, Countdown, Run the World, Irreplaceable, Love on Top, Formation, Brown Eyes, Naughty Girl, Beautiful Liar, Partition, and Dance for You. Mike clapped as Alyssa kept listing the songs. They both laughed and applauded each other. In a bid to continue the conversation, I asked Mike about the things he likes and the things he dislikes. He said he liked people that are honest, truthful, hardworking, and open-minded. He said he hates laziness, dishonesty, and lies. When he finished talking about his likes, he asked me about my likes and dislikes too. I said I like almost everything he said he likes and dislikes. I told Mike that I was not wrong the other time when I said that we have a lot of things in common. I said it's difficult to believe that we can have so much in common on meeting for the first time. Why did you say you hate dishonesty? Has anyone broken your heart before? He said he used to have a girlfriend when he was in high school. He said we were in the same class and he loved her very much. He said she started acting the other way when they left school. He said she started ignoring his calls, and she was caring as she was when they were in college. He said at that point, he knew someone else has snatched her from him. He said he had no other option than to break up with her. He said it was very painful because she was the first girl he would ever fall in love with. Oh, that's sad, Alyssa said. It's all right. Mike replied. So, did you date anyone else after she broke up with you? I asked Mike. Mike said he hasn't gone into a relationship since then. He said he has been focused on his work and his family. He said he doesn't want another distraction. So you mean women are a distraction? I said. Mike said some women are a distraction because they are not honest. He said they wouldn't love a man the way he loves them. He said there are also many other reasons why he has decided to stay away from having a relationship. Alyssa said she wants to know the reasons. Mike said he just wants to concentrate on his job and his family. He said he wants to be able to save up so that he can achieve his aim of becoming a computer engineer. Alyssa said, wow, that's fine. She asked Mike if he would consider going into a relationship if he finds someone that is honest. Mike said it's a probability. Tell me about your love life too, Mike asked me. I have never been into a relationship deeply like you. I had a very close friend in high school that people used to think we were dating. We were very close but we were not in any relationship. At that point, I knew Mike where I wanted him. I knew I could do anything I wanted with him, but I wanted to take her time and see where the conversation will lead to. So, how have you been coping since you broke up with your girlfriend? Mike said I have been coping well. Mike understood what I meant by the question. He knew I wanted to ask if he has been having sex since he left his girlfriend, but he decided to play along. He wanted me to say it directly. I know he has been coping well. But, how has he been coping with lack of sex, or does he have a sex partner? Mike smiled. He was happy because he heard what he wanted to hear from me. Mike said he doesn't have a sex partner. He said he has been able to stay away from sex since he and his girlfriend broke up. I smiled and told Mike that I admire his courage. I said it's not easy to stay away from sex that long, especially having sex before. Mike also wanted to know about my sex life. Tell me if you have ever had sex before. Mike said since I said she hasn't had a deep relationship, he was curious to know if I have gotten down with someone. I said I have gotten down many times with my high school friend even though we weren't dating. I excused myself to get a drink for Mike. At that stage, both Mike and I were already in the mood to get down with each other. When I got up, Mike couldn't take his eyes off me as I walked to the kitchen. I realized that Mike's eyes were fixated on me, so I started walking seductively to draw Mike's attention. When I entered the kitchen, Mike thought to himself that that was the perfect opportunity. He needed to have sex with me. I picked a drink from the fridge and went to the kitchen to pick a cup. While I was walking to the kitchen, Mark stood up and trailed me. He stood at my back, but I did not know because I was pouring iced teas into a cup. While I was pouring iced tea into the cup, I felt Mike near me grabbing my butt. I knew it was Mike because we were the only ones in the house. I deliberately acted like I didn't know someone was at my back grabbing my butt. I was already in the mood, and I was enjoying what Mike was doing. Mike continued grabbing my butt. He was waiting for me to turn to him so that he could plant a kiss on my mouth. Immediately I turned back to see who was at my back. Mike planted a kiss on my mouth and smiled at me. At that stage, Mike and I were deep into each other. I pecked him many times in the kitchen, and he pecked me too. We continued to peck each other because we wanted to keep things simple. I led Mike back to my room and we continued our conversation. My conversation with Mike became more intimate. I was wrapped up in his arms while I continued to chat with him about his private life. Mike wouldn't talk for 2 minutes without giving a peck, and I was always ready to receive his peck. After about 3 hours of chatting and pecking, Mike told me he was leaving. He said his family would be waiting for him. I followed him to my gate and we kissed for the last time. It was an awesome experience for me. Since then, I have ordered more than 6 items. Most of the items are items that I do not need. I kept on ordering these items with the hope that Mike will be the one to deliver them. 6 months after, I have not been able to see Mike. I want someone to help me look for him. Someone to help me look for him. Someone to help me look for.
I'm Stephanie. I live in law with my parents. They were everything to me until I met Jude, my new boyfriend. I love him so much, I don't want to get separated from him never and ever. I met Jude a few days after my parents and I moved to LA because my father had just been transferred to lead a branch of the stockbroking company he works for in our old city of residence. At first, I didn't buy the idea because I would have to lose all my friends and, most importantly, my plans to get back at Truce, my first boyfriend. Truce was 3 years my senior, but our relationship was delicate. I felt safe whenever I was with him. He was an honest guy, classy and straightforward before everything changed. He was the head of the football team then, and I was just a girl on the cheerleading team. My parent knew about my relationship with Truce, and I don't think they were happy about it. My father didn't really act up, but my mom, let's just say she was acting like a typical mother who thinks her child isn't in safe hands, would do. I really appreciate their concerns, but I thought Truce wasn't that bad. Truce did visit my place from time to time, and he's always welcomed. Truce, who had no other objectives, don't waste time in the living room. We always head straight to my bedroom, you know. I was the lousy one. I screamed a lot and said so many naughty words. I think my parents heard but weren't bothered, while Truce, on the other hand, just remained cool. I did think I didn't satisfy him, but he never said that. What else can I ask for, you'll say? Moreover, my parents were busy individuals. That hasn't changed a bit anyways. They traveled on business trips a lot. I frequently followed Truce out to places or clubs. Most of them weren't so cool, but I didn't care. I felt safe with Truce. He was like my big brother. Though still against my parents' counsel, my association with Truce was perfect until that fateful night, one of the nights my parents went on their business trips as usual. Truce came to my place. As usual, he called on me, and as I was dressing up, he bumped in and met me not fully dressed. He took a long gaze at me from the head down. I noticed this, so I stopped dressing. I know I have a good shape. Assuming the mirror was lying to me, people say I took after my mom. She's hot. I've not gotten all those curves, and the 2 babies on my chest are not fully grown, but I had potentials. Truce kept admiring me. His mouth was gaping up. Elle could tell he wanted to have me, but I was teasing him. I hurried up with my dressing. I noticed he was hard, but he kept his cool. I smiled. To satisfy his lust, I kissed him passionately and whispered to his ear when we returned. We found our way to his motorcycle outside. It wasn't like those pretty bikes in Hollywood movies, but it rocks for a high school student to have his own bike. He started the cycle, and I jumped on it from behind. I held him by the waist as he zoomed off. We stopped in front of a club. This one was new. We had been to different clubs repeatedly, but not this one. I started getting uncomfortable. I looked at Truce's face, and he smiled back at me. I gulped in a handful of saliva purposefully to show my discomfort, but his emotion didn't really change. Then he came close to me as if he was going to hug me and whispered to my hearing something I never forgot: "This is where I really belong." Had I known, I would have taken to the heel, but I remained stubborn despite my instincts. Let's just assume I love being gullible, at least for that time or for the worse my whole life. My life is about to change for good on the positive part, but looking at that situation, things didn't go as planned. Well, I never had any plan, Truce plan at all. This was the day I will never forget. This was the day that changed my family's life. My father took that gig in life even though he was doing just fine here. My mom thought leaving was the best too, at least she would avoid shame, and it was depression for me on my side. I remembered vividly after that night, I said to myself, never will I date any guy until the end of high school. That didn't last much. Jude came into the picture earlier than the end of high school. Maybe I can't be trusted with my own words either. My emotion got the best of me, and I love it. Truce placed his hands around my neck as we walked towards the bouncer. I was a lot shorter than him, but I pretended to be cool with it. He started muttering some jokes that I found not funny anymore due to my current situation, but continued credulous. When we got to the bouncer, I became the stranger. It was as if he had known the bouncer longer than I knew my mom. There was great chemistry between the big guy and Truce. He allowed us in without asking for any ID. Funny, right? I know it is a culture for bouncers to ask for IDs, but this time was different. My mind flashed back to when we first met after a football game against the other best team in town, my then high school team's archenemy Oaks Christian. As the team's captain, Truce got injured early in the game. He could not proceed. He was stretched out of the playing zone, and since I was the youngest in the cheerleading team, I basically did not cheerlead at all. I was more like the errand girl in the group. I got the first aid box and walked reluctantly towards the team's captain. No one stopped me, not even the teachers. Everyone kept looking at the brave small girl walking towards the biggest boy in school. I have the skills since I was part of the Red Cross community in my junior school. I tended to his wound and made him very comfortable. Then I saw a smile on his face. I think he was satisfied with my services. He said, "I am Truce Dempsey. What is your name?" I can't believe my ears. Almost confused, I replied, "I am Stephanie Brown." Then he said, "Will you go have coffee with me tomorrow at the cafe?" Somebody hit me. The biggest boy in high school just asked me out. I carefully said, "Yes, I would love to have a cup of coffee." That was just 3 months ago from this fateful day. I thought I knew him, but that night I realized I didn't know him that much. I wanted to cry already. We entered the club. Almost everybody recognized Truce. I was surprised. How long has he been visiting this place? It was as if he was there the night before. He introduced me to everyone. The guys were top-notch, and the girls were so hot. Well, I'm the youngest, and I had potentials. The ladies are sexy to behold, and their curves are heaven. I felt like holding their 2 babies in my hands. I felt like an opposite gender by gazing at them. I noticed all the details they possessed. Before getting caught off guard, I quickly brought out my phone and started watching some videos. While I was busy with my phone, the ladies were whispering and laughing. I think they were talking about me, but who cares? I shrugged it off as I tried to find out what the boys were up to. Those guys were really planning something big or maybe crazy. Truce looked at my side from time to time and winkled at me at every instance. Everything there was kind of creepy. The noise was so loud like every other club. The bartenders were doing their job, but 10 people were in attendance. All are familiar individuals, with me being the only stranger. The guys are done with their presumed board meeting, and each guy went for their girls. Truce came to me and asked me what will I love to take. This wasn't the best moment to get drunk. I replied, water is fine. He looked at me in disappointment, but I didn't care at this moment. I repeated I would love cold water. He stood up, went straight to the bar and got himself a few beers, and got me 2 chilled bottles of water from the big freezer beside the bar. I sipped my water while every other person was marrying. The party moved from seriousness to naughtiness. The other girls are doing their thing before I could get my head around what is going on. A certain girl was really riding on a guy's lap so hard. Looking at his face, you can tell he will soon go. The girl was so good. Several hours had gone, a lot of adult scenes, all the guys present had wet themselves except Truce, who was on his 6th bottle of beer. Then, here came the moment they had been waiting for. I was here to be initiated as Truce's new girlfriend, and I knew nothing about it. Dave, Truce's closest pal in the clique and undeniably the gang leader, broke it to me. I would be stripped naked, and all the guys will take turns on me. I fired back at the idea, and they all laughed. Lucy, the sexiest, curviest, and most endowed of the other 4 girls, said, "It's the ritual only once, and you're welcome to the club, baby." I tried to fight my way out of the club, the ladies stripped me off my clothes, and the guys started dancing around me. I felt ashamed, and I cried. I was let out to go, and Truce made me go home all by myself that night. That night, I will never forget. I wept all night, my face swollen. Truce didn't call or check on me. Even without saying it, I knew it was over. The following day, I got dressed for school. On getting to the school environment, everyone's eyes were locked on me. There were whispers and disgusting faces everywhere. It was only me that was left to wonder what was going on. I got to my class, and the atmosphere was still the same. I sat on my chair, still thinking about what happened last night. Kathy and Elle, my 2 friends, came towards me. They told me about a video of me dancing naked with some unrecognized boys posted on the school website the previous night. What? It was filmed. I said that to myself, but it felt as if I was shouting out loud. No, I am doomed, I softly said to myself. They tried to ask me about what really happened, but I was too down to give a response. Stephanie Brown. That's the principal's voice from the school speaker. You're wanted in my office now. I stood up from my seat. It looked like the whole world was upon my head. I wanted to melt down. I dragged my feet to the principal's office. My mom and dad were already in his office. He asked me what really happened. I was too ashamed to say anything. My dad couldn't look at my face, and my mom was sobbing silently. The principal asked me to go to the reception. A few minutes later, my parents came out and said to me, "You've been expelled, let's go home." I busted into tears. That was the quietest day in our home. My dad is naturally reticent, but my mom was gratuitously silent. I was in my room with my head deep in the soft pillow crying softly. A few hours later, my parents came in with 2 slices of bread, a plate of fried eggs, and a glass of juice. They sat beside me on the bed, and I could feel Mom rocking my leg. I sat down with my head bowed in shame. They comforted me before my dad revealed that he got a gig in LA and would take the chance. My mom went along with the plan. Deep in my thought, I was visualizing how I was going to get my revenge at Truce. I really don't want to leave, not now. My friends were the best. I didn't want to be separated from them, but I understood that decision was difficult for my parents. They took it because of me. I appreciated their effort. Everyone went along with the idea of leaving everything behind. Later in the evening, my friends came to our place. I updated them. They were initially reluctant. Soon they found out it was for the best. Everyone saw that as a good plan except me. I wanted to get revenge on my mess. They quickly jumped into helping me pack my stuff and assisted my parents in a few rounds. We resumed the journey very early the following day. None of our neighbors was out. I am sure my dad couldn't see the road clearly, but it was his braveness for me. We got to lie before none, moved into our new apartment, and everyone opened a new chapter in their lives. All this, just because of my foolishness. My mom got me registered in a new school. The process was easy. I had good grades, and my viral video hadn't reached LA yet. That was a significant relief. I started attending class with the immediate effect of forgetting the past as soon as possible. I was a loner for the first few weeks because I didn't know who to trust anymore. Everyone tried associating themselves with the newbie, but I think I was getting better at avoiding people. That was my newest superpower. Then Abby came into the picture. She had been sitting behind me all semester and I didn't even notice her. Wow. This girl is good. She talked to no one and no one talked back to her. She is always reading a novel or writing something no one cared about except her. Her diary is filled with posters of aliens and spaceships. Weird, right? Help me pick my pen, it is between your legs. That voice was new. I never perceived that, and it was 3 months I resumed. I looked back, it was Abby. Babe, she's like an angel. Her lips were white, and the wet lips melted perfectly on them. I was still fantasizing about her when I heard, "Will you please help me with the pen?" "Oh, I'm sorry," I replied. "Here it is." She then raised her eyelid, trying to make me look back. Looking at me from the opposite direction was the class nerd, Jude. Jude is cute. He has a baby face and is the best student in class, but he is not sporty. This boy can't even ride a bicycle, nerd. Abby continued, "He has been looking at you since the professor introduced you to the class. I think he's into you." Why is Abby talking to me? This is strange. I would have been comfortable with this supposed discussion, but he'll be saying anything to me. She introduced me to a stalker. I took it as a setup, faced front, and gave Jude a weird face. Jude looked away with a smile on his face. It was as if his mission was accomplished. I finally noticed him. I felt unsafe and more comfortable. I rushed out to the restroom to calm myself a bit. I entered the classroom and couldn't wait for the bell. Immediately, I heard it. I carried my bag and disappeared from the premises. The following day at school, I got my stuff from my locker and Jude came by trying to initiate some conversation. I didn't respond to his calls, though he sounded soft. I could pick he couldn't hurt a fly by day. Not him, not now and not anytime soon. Abby whispered to my ear in the class, "Give him a chance, you won't regret it this time, trust me." I looked back in awe. Did she know about it? Was she there? I felt unsecured. I understand how people that had been treated bitterly act, and I could tell you were once a victim, the soft voice continued whispering. I sighed with relief. At least she didn't know about it, I said to myself. What did you care? I whispered back. She smiled and replied, "Here he comes." I turned around and lo, Jude. "Hi, Abby," he greeted. "You good?" Abby responded. I think these two know themselves a lot. I later found out that they are twins, and my name is the leading topic in their house. Jude started with his speech. He wasn't even concentrating. My eyes were locked on his. "Can you hear me?" Jude asked sharply. "Yes," I responded in an apt. "Will you go watch a movie with me tomorrow night and maybe get a drink when returning?" "Is that a date?" I asked in return. "I guess," he said with a tone of doubt. "Okay, this once," I replied. I couldn't believe I had just said that. That slip of tongue gave me the sweetest experience to date. After the movie night, we started going out. My parents knew about him, and they were happy that I had moved on. I couldn't believe myself, I was reborn. Jude brought me back to life. Unlike Truce, my parents were delighted with my relationship with Jude. God, this guy is well-cultured, a very respectful kid. His weird twin sister became my best and only friend in school. Babe, this girl can talk, only when she's not in the class. I found out she's the lousy type, and Jude is the timid one. That is the opposite in school. Their father works at NASA. That explained the alien and spaceship posters on Abby's diary. Their mom sells flowers in a plant store. Those two are really close. They shared everything without a tip of jealousy. They even shared my time among themselves. They made La my new home. My relationship with Jude was perfect, but we haven't gotten intimate yet. Jude said he could wait. And I really love this guy, but Truce's memory was well seated in my cerebrum. I could recall everything as if it was yesterday. Over a year now, my relationship with Jude Wilson was more pleasant than the early morning sun. I could believe what was happening. It was as if I was in a dreamland. Mr. and Mrs. Wilson are the best. They treat me as one of their own. Brad was the naughty little brother. He is tough to please. I think we will get along. Brad is addicted to his video game. I deduce that it might be natural to him that the real life. Unlike my parents, the Wilsons are very predictable. Mrs. Wilson is always available, but Mr. Wilson barely comes home. Their stamina is kind of regular. Everyone knows what to do with time. Everything with the Wilsons is routine. I like this home, and I fit in comfortably. Recently, my parents even allowed me to spend weeks with the Wilsons. It is a home away from home. The Wilsons are not as boring as they look. This person can party, they love traveling and even have movie nights every Friday. We are now in our finals. Prom is in a few weeks. Jude seems to be very busy recently. He is the valedictorian, and as the school president, he is planning the best prom yet. Abby wasn't helping her twin brother. I wasn't surprised. She's good at ignoring people, and Jude was okay with it too. I really miss Jude. This is the first time in a long time Jude wasn't really available, but Abby was making up for his brother. I had plans too. My mom and I had been visiting wear stores and boutiques. As the first lady of the prom night, I ought to look my best. I didn't really know my mom was good at selecting dresses until now. All my life, she had been wearing office wears. Initially, I didn't trust her choice, but in time, babe, Mom was good. She got me new pairs of heels. I appreciated her, and I gave her arguably the longest hug I have given her. She smiled in satisfaction. Tonight is the prom. Everything was going on fine with me, Jude, Abby, and my parents. Jude called me as usual. I understood he was trying to make up for his absence, but the information was different this time. He said he had provided an Uber for the night. That was thoughtful of him. I informed my dad about the news since he promised me the day before to transport me to the prom center. My dad was okay with it, and he wished me good luck. Braun. That was the doorbell. My mom got the door. Baby, it is Jude, she shouted. I came down the stairs. I was walking like an angel. I wasn't perfect with heels, but try not to rush myself. Jude was in his tuxedo. He looked up to take his queen. He was smiling, and I was smiling. My dad looked so pleased, and my mom joined her hands together, raised towards her chin. I am not getting married yet, I snapped at the duo. I met up with Jude at the end of the stairs. Jude whispered, I love you, beauty. I waved my hands at my parents as we walked towards the black SUV parked in front of the lawn. The driver was in a black suit. The driver turned. He was wearing a black sunglass. The face looked familiar, but how did I know a bearded young man? The driver removed his glasses, and lo, it was Truce. Truce. I can't believe myself. I ran into the house and straight to my room upstairs. What should I have done? My old boyfriend, who tarnished my image, is here to pick me on my prom night. Should I go in the Uber or stay home? What did you think? What did you think? What did you think? My name is Anna. I am 19 years of age. I was born in Washington. I started my life as a little girl in the city of Washington. My parents moved to Washington a few weeks after they got married. 2 years after they gave birth to me, I started primary education in Washington. After my primary school education, I was enrolled in another high school in Washington. When I graduated from high school, I got admission into a college in Texas. For the first time in my life, I had to live without my parents and live elsewhere. My dad got a good apartment for me because he didn't want me to stay in the school hostel. The apartment was nice. I fell in love with the apartment as soon as I entered. My dad stayed with me for a day before he traveled back to Washington. The next day was the day I was supposed to resume school. I woke up very early, I took my bath and I prepared for school. My dad got me a taxi driver that will be driving me to school and be taking me back home after lectures. As soon as I finished my preparation, I called the taxi driver. He called me immediately he arrived at my gate. I entered the taxi and we drove off to school. We arrived at school at exactly 7:50 a.m. The school was so big that I couldn't find my way to my faculty. While I was figuring out how to locate my faculty, I saw a young guy standing close to a tree. He was talking to someone on the phone, so I waited for him to end the call. As soon as he ended the call, I said hi. He replied and asked if he could help me. I told him that I am a new student. I said this is my first time in school. I said I am a law student, but I don't know where my faculty is. He welcomed me to the school. He said I will enjoy my stay at the school. He said I should follow him because he is also going to the faculty of law. I was very that help was in sight. After all the things I went through, I finally saw someone willing to help. We walked for 2 minutes and he showed me the faculty. He took me to my class so that I can meet my colleagues. When I got to my class, a lecturer was already in class. I stood outside waiting for the lecturer to come out so that I can enter the class. While the lecturer was dictating from his note, he walked to the front of the class. He saw me standing outside and he told me to enter the class. When I entered the class, he asked me if I am a member of the class and I replied in the affirmative. He asked me why I was standing outside. I said I am coming for the first time. I said I couldn't enter the class because I met him teaching. The lecturer told me to look for a sit and settle down. He said I do not have to wait outside when I am late to class. He said no lecturer will send me out of a class because I came late. The lecturer told me to take my sit and he continued teaching. We didn't have any lectures after that class. So, we decided to use the opportunity to know ourselves. The first thing we did was appoint a class representative. One of the teachers was called to help us organize it. He stood in front of the class and welcomed everyone. He advised us to take our studies seriously. He said the first and second years are the most important for a student. He said once a student does badly in his first 2 years, he said there is no way he or she will have a good result. He said once a student can scale through the first 2 years with a good result, he or she will graduate with a good grade. He said having a good grade is a big advantage in the labor market because every organization wants a good and competent worker. After advising us, he went back to the subject matter. He told those that have an interest in becoming the class representative to step forward. 2 female students and 3 female students went forward. The lecturer said it is now in our hands to decide who our class representative will be. He said because we are all meeting ourselves for the first time, he will give the 5 students the chance to sell themselves to the class. They mounted the podium one after the other to sell themselves to the class. After 45 minutes, they were through with their manifesto. The lecturer mounted the podium again. He said the next thing is to appoint our class representative through voting. He said the student that has the highest vote will become the class representative. We were 100 in the class, 95 of us were left to cast the vote. The lecturer told every student to tear a sheet of paper and write the name of their favorite candidate on it. He said after writing it, every student should step forward and drop it in the ballot box. The lecturer told the contestants to mention their names to the class again before the commencement of the voting. The first student stepped forward and mentioned his name. He told the class that his name is John. The second student stepped forward and did the same. He told the class that his name is Patrick. The third student stepped forward and she also did the same. She told the class that her name is Angela. The fourth student stepped forward and did the same. She told the class that her name is Anita, while the last student told the class that his name is Henry. After they mentioned their name, he told us to do as instructed. We all tore a sheet of paper and wrote the name of our preferred candidate. After the vote, the lecturer told one of us to count the vote. After the counting, the lecturer announced the results. He said John had 65 votes, Patrick had 10 votes, Anita had 10 votes, and Angela had 6 votes while Henry had 4 votes. The lecturer said by vote cast, John has been elected as the class representative. The whole class shouted. Some of the students went to the podium and hugged him. After some time, the lecturer told everybody to return to their seats while the contestants should remain standing. He told the candidates to display the spirit of sportsmanship by shaking each other. After they did that, he told the other 4 students to return to their seats while John should remain standing. The lecturer told John that if he wants to be a successful class representative, he has to take everybody in the class along in everything he does. He said if a lecturer gives the class assignment, he has to make sure that everybody in the class gets the assignment. He said if he wants to submit an assignment too, he has to make sure that at least the majority of the class has submitted. He said the welfare of the class is part of his duties. He said if he does not see any student in class, he has to call that student to know why he or she is absent. He said one of the ways he can achieve that is to create a WhatsApp group for the class. After the lecturer finished his speech, he told John to return to his seat and the lecturer left our class. When the lecturer left the class, some of John's friends went to him and congratulated him again. They took him to the restaurant to celebrate his victory. When I realized that there was nothing left for me to do, I called my taxi driver to take me home. He told me to wait for him in front of the school gate so that he wouldn't bother entering the school gate. I boarded one of the taxis on the campus and I alighted at the school gate. 5 minutes later, my taxi driver arrived. I entered his car and he drove off. I got home around 3 p.m. As soon as I entered the house, I went straight to the bathroom and took a shower. After taking a shower, I ate the food I bought on my way home. After eating, I lied down on my couch and slept off. I woke up around 8 p.m. When I woke up, I walked into my room and continued my sleep. I woke up very early the next day because I didn't want to get to class late. I called my taxi driver before I entered the bathroom to take my bath. I knew he will arrive before I finish my preparation for class. 20 minutes after, my taxi driver called me and informed me that he is in front of my gate. I was still putting on my cloth when he called. I told him that I will join him in a few minutes. 5 minutes after, I joined my taxi driver in his car and we drove to school. I entered my class at exactly 7:50 a.m. Our first lecture was to begin at 8 a.m., so we had little time to gist. John walked to the front of the class and addressed the class for the first time since he was elected as the class representative. He thanked us all for voting for him and he promised to work diligently for the success of all the students in the class. He said he will make sure every information is passed as it went due. He said his first task as a class representative is to create a class group. He passed a blank paper around the class. He said everyone should write his or her cell phone number on the paper so that they can be added to the group. At exactly 8 a.m., a lecturer entered our class, so we suspended what we were doing. When the lecturer ended his class, another lecturer came in. We had lectures until we went for a break. After the break, there was no lecture, so we continued writing our numbers. John created a group that night and he started giving us information on the group. He would tell us whenever we have a lecture or whenever a lecture is cancelled. One day, I received a message from an unknown number on WhatsApp. The message I received was, "Hey pretty, how are you?" I didn't reply because the number looked strange. While I was browsing the internet, the number called me via WhatsApp again. I was reading important content on my phone, so I didn't answer the call. When I finished reading what I was reading, I replied to the message with the hope that it was someone I know. After replying that I was fine, I asked the person who he is and how he got my number. He asked me which of the questions do I want him to answer first. I said he should answer anyone first. He said his name is Nelly. I said I don't know anybody with that name. He said I might probably not know him but he knows me. I asked him where he knew me. He said we are in the same class. I asked him how he got my number. He said he picked my number on the class group. As soon as I heard that, I became very angry. I threatened to report him to the class representative for taking my number on the group without informing me. When he heard that I was going to report him, he started begging me. He said I shouldn't report him. He promised that he won't do that again. I told him that if I see his message on my phone again, I will report him for intruding on my privacy. He apologized once again and promised not to intrude on my privacy again. The next day in school, I saw the lecturer that was in class on the first day I went to school. I was the one that greeted him because he didn't recognize me. He responded to my greeting but he was still looking at me like he knew me from somewhere. I told him that I was the student that came late to the class on the first day of resumption. I said I was waiting outside when he called me into the class and asked me why I was standing outside. When I finished my explanation, he remembered who I was. He said he hasn't come to our class since that day because he traveled. He asked me how I have been coping with my study. As I told him that I have been coping very well. While I was about to walk away, he held my hand. It was a shocker to me. I was surprised and at the same time, I was afraid. He asked me whether I have a cell phone and I replied in the affirmative. He gave me his phone and told me to type my save my number on his phone. I collected his phone and did as he instructed. I walked away from him and I returned to my class. We had only one lecture after that. As soon as the lecture ended, I called my taxi driver to come and take me home. When he arrived, I entered the car and he drove me home. I was very hungry when I got home. I rushed into the kitchen to prepare a meal for myself. While I was preparing the meal, I quickly entered the bathroom and took a shower. 30 minutes later, my food was ready. I ate my food in the sitting room. After eating, I lied on my couch like I used to. At exactly 9 p.m., I went into my room and slept off. It was my lecturer's call that woke me the next morning. I was surprised to see his call very early in the morning. I didn't want to answer the phone at first, but I thought within myself that he might have an important message for me. When I answered the phone, I respectably greeted him. He noticed that my voice was not as audible as it used to. He asked me if I was still sleeping. I told him that it was his call that woke me up from my sleep. He apologized for disturbing my sleep. I said he doesn't need to apologize because his call came at the right time. I said if he didn't call, I would have been late for class because I will still be sleeping by now. He said if I come to school, I should make sure that I see him in his office before I leave. I told him that I would do that. As soon as the call ended, I started thinking within myself that why will a lecturer want to see me in his office? I concluded within myself that he might have important information for me. When I finished preparing for school, I called my taxi driver. He arrived in a few minutes and he drove me off to school. I got to school around 7:45 a.m. I knew I had 15 minutes before the commencement of the lecture, so I went straight to Dr. Peter's office. I met his door open, but he wasn't in his office. I called his cell phone number to inform him that I am in front of his office. But he didn't answer his call. When I didn't see him, I had no other option than to go to class. 5 minutes later, Dr. Peter returned my call. He asked me where I am. I told him that I was in front of his office when I called him. He said he was in a meeting with his colleagues, which was the reason he wasn't able to answer my call. I told him that I have left his office and I am presently in class. He said he will be in his office by 9 p.m. He said from 9 p.m. I can come and see him in his office. At exactly 8 a.m., a lecturer entered our class. He taught us until 10 a.m. As soon as he left, another lecturer entered the class. We had lectures until 2 p.m. As soon as Elle left the class, I went straight to the school's restaurant because I was very hungry. After eating to my satisfaction, I called Dr. Peter. When he answered the phone, he asked me where I was. I told him that I am at the school restaurant. He said I can come and see him in his office now. I left the school restaurant and walked to Dr. Peter's office. When I got to the door of his office, I knocked. He already knew I was the one, therefore, he didn't hesitate to tell me to enter. When I entered his office, he told me to sit on his couch. I was surprised to see a very big couch in his office. I sat on the couch thinking why this man invited me to his office. He excused himself and went out of his office. He returned 5 minutes later with a bottle of wine. I told him that he didn't need to disturb himself because I just left the school restaurant. He said it's not compulsory I drink the wine in his office, he said I can take it home. He placed the wine in front of me and sat very close to me. He didn't say anything for some seconds, so I started wondering why he told me to come in the first place. I looked at his face and I asked him the reason he asked me to see him in his office. Dr. Peter said since he became a lecturer, he has had nothing to do with his students. He said he tries to avoid his students. He said my case seems different. He said he began to like me from the first day he saw me. He said he knows what he is about to tell me might sound weird, but it is from the bottom of his mind. Dr. Peter said he likes me and he wants me to be his girlfriend. I didn't know whether to cry or laugh when he said it. It was annoying to me because I knew he will have a wife at home. I asked him whether he has a wife at home. He said he has a wife and 2 kids. I said why he will want to date a young girl like me when he has a wife at home. He said I shouldn't bother about his wife. He said his wife wouldn't know about our relationship. I stood up angrily and walked out of his office. I didn't even bother to call my taxi driver that day because of the anger in me. I used public transport to get to my house. When I got home, I took a shower to relax. After taking the shower, I cooked a delicious meal for myself. While I was in the sitting room watching television, Dr. Peter's call came in. I thought within me whether to answer the phone or not. Before I could decide, the call ended. A few seconds later, he called again. I answered at this time with an angry tone. Immediately I answered the call, I asked him why he was calling me. He said he wanted to let me know that what I did was very wrong. He said even if I do not want to date him, I shouldn't have walked out on him. He said at least he is old enough to be my father. I told him that if he knows he is old enough to be my father, why he would want to date someone as young as his daughter. He became very angry and started ranting on phone. He said he would let me know that he is my lecturer. He said I will suffer a lot to pass his course. He said he has a lot of friends in the department. He said he will do everything to frustrate my stay in school. He said he has come across many stubborn students like me during his career and he has dealt with them severely. He said my case won't be any different. I ended the call in anger. Throughout that night, I was very angry. The next day, I went to school very angry. I got to school at exactly 7:50 a.m. At exactly 8 a.m., Dr. Peter entered our class. He taught us for 2 hours before he left our class. As soon as he left the class, I walked out of the class and sat under a chair that was under a tree. While I was sitting, a young guy in his mid-20s approached me. He greeted me and I responded. He noticed that there was an element of anger in me. He asked what could make a young and beautiful girl like me angry at that time of the day. I told him that I am fine. He said his name is Nelly. I said I do not know anybody with such a name. He said I will remember him if I think very well. I told him that I don't know anybody with such a name. He said he was the guy that sent me a message on WhatsApp some days ago. He said he came to apologize for what he did. I told him that he shouldn't have bothered because I have forgotten about it. Nelly and I began to talk that day and we bonded very well. We talked until the school closed. After the school closed, we went to our respective homes. When I got home, I was the first to send Nelly a message on WhatsApp. I told him to forget about what happened the previous day. I said he can chat and call me anytime he wants. Henry was so happy. He said he wanted to know why I was angry back in school. I told him that his anger was caused by one of our lecturers. He asked me who the lecturer is. I said it is Dr. Peter. I told Nelly that Dr. Peter called me one morning that I should see him in his office. I said I didn't know what I wanted to do for him, but I went. I said when I got there, he told me something irritating. Nelly asked what he told me. I said he told me that he wants to date me. I said when he mentioned it, I walked out on him. I said when I got home, he called me and threatened that he will make sure I fail his course. Nelly asked what I did after that. I said I didn't do anything. I said I have made up my mind to read very well for the upcoming examination. I said I want to see whether he will fail me if I write what he taught me in class. I told Nelly that I was already feeling sleepy. I said we will meet in school the next day. The next day in school, Nelly came to me and told me that he wants to tell me something. He said he doesn't know if I will accept it or not. I said he should say what he wants to say. He said he will like to stay in my place so that we can read together for the upcoming exam. I said that's a good idea. I said reading together will help me a lot. I left school around 1 p.m. that day because we weren't doing anything. None of our lecturers came to class because we have already concluded the topics for the semester. We were all waiting for our examination. 1 week before the exam, Nelly came to my house and we started staying together. We drafted a timetable for our reading. We had 8 courses in total, so we divided them into 2. We will read a course in the morning and another in the afternoon. We were reading one day when I mistakenly saw Nelly's anaconda through his boxer. Nelly's anaconda was very hard. I knew Nelly was thinking about having sex with me. I wanted him to know that I saw his anaconda, so I asked him why his anaconda was so hard. He said he doesn't know. He said it happens to him sometimes. I smiled knowing that he was lying. I moved close to him and I held his anaconda. As soon as I held his anaconda, he dipped his hands in my boobs too. I was caressing his anaconda and he was caressing my boobs. The pleasure was out of this world. After caressing me for minutes, I walked him to my room and we had sex. After the sex that day, we continued to have sex until the day of the exam. On the day of the commencement of our exam, we had early morning sex before we left for school. The exam came and I did my best. I was expecting a very good result because I read very well for the exam. 2 weeks after the exam, the result was out. We received a message from the school that we should check our results on our portal. I was afraid to check. I called Nelly that he should help me check it. Nelly said I should give him 5 minutes. 10 minutes later, Nelly called me. I was afraid to pick the call. When I eventually picked the call, Nelly read my results to me. It was a fantastic result. I did very well in all my courses including Dr. Peter's course. My result was the best in my class. 2 weeks later, we resumed for the second semester. People began to notice me in class. I began to have a lot of friends because everybody wanted me to share my knowledge with them. 4 years later I graduated from college as the best graduating student in my school. The convocation ceremony was attended by many people. My parents invited a lot of their friends to my convocation. They wanted them to come and see how their daughter made them proud. After the convocation, I left Texas and returned to Washington with my parents. I stayed with my parents for 3 months before I got a job in a reputable company in California. When I got the job, I left Washington and relocated to California. I resumed at the office the next Monday after I traveled to Washington. When I resumed, my first stop was at the office of the chief executive officer of the company. She welcomed me. She told me what the company wants from me and she told me to make them proud. When I left the chief executive officer's office, I was taken to the office of the manager. The manager told me almost exactly what the CEO told me. From the manager's office, I was taken to the office of my direct boss. My direct boss briefed me on a lot of things. He told me my job description, the do's and don'ts of the organization, and the level of performance that is expected of me. After the entire introduction, I was taken to my office. The manager brought 2 ladies to my office.
He said they are my assistants.
He said I should call on any of them if I need anything. Days went by and I continued my job in the company. I made sure that I do all that is expected of me without delay. I noticed that my boss started having an interest in me. I was happy because he is a handsome and caring guy. Most of the time, he takes me on a lunch break.
He buys other things for me aside from food.
I was enjoying his company, waiting patiently for him to say what I wanted to hear. One day, I wore a very sexy dress to the office. The dress was so sexy that my boss had to compliment it twice. My boss used to compliment my dress often, but it was just too much that day. When he kept complimenting me, I knew he was up to something. I was sitting in my office when I saw his call. I hurriedly answered, thinking he has something important for me. He told me to come to his office. When I got to his office, I stood for 3 minutes and my boss did not say anything. After some time, he walked close to me. Once again, he talked about my dress. He asked me if he can kiss me. I said he can. He said he doesn't want an ordinary kiss. He said what he wants is a French kiss. I said I haven't heard of that before and I do not know what it means and how to do it. He said I shouldn't worry, that he will teach me. He said he wants to explain it to me before we start. He said a French kiss is a kiss in which one or both partners use their tongues to stimulate each other's mouths for mutual sexual pleasure. My boss taught me French kiss and we did it. It was an exciting time with my boss. I kept asking for more and my boss was always ready to give me. Hey, guys, please let me know if this is right or if this is what I should do, or please let me have your thoughts on this.
This story takes us to a 16-year-old girl. Sweet 16, they say. But they don't know that life can be cruel even at that time. What can happen to a 16-year-old to think that life is cruel? Let me introduce myself. I am Anita. I come from the city that never sleeps, New York. Just like New York, I never sleep too. New York can be very inspirational, especially at night. You can't miss the lights. I live in the 10th floor of our apartment, and the views are just crazy. I always nap after school during the day so that I can enjoy the warm nights that New York brings. My favorite part of the day is sitting on my balcony, just like I am right now. I either am writing, watching a TV show, or sometimes I get lost in my own thoughts. My go-to TV show right now is definitely Game of Thrones. Everyone has a guilty pleasure. For me are TV shows and movies. I don't have a specific favorite genre. It simply has to have a beautiful, inspirational message behind it. My favorite part of our apartment is definitely our balcony. I spend the most time there. I eat there. You can learn a lot about the city on your balcony. You see a lot of stuff that happens. A lot of cool people just walking around. I witnessed a lot of breakups between random couples, drunk people passing on the streets. And it's kind of entertaining. Since I spent a lot of my time on the balcony, I almost know every one of my neighbors' stories. You might think that I spy or something, but I don't. I just can't help but stare. I have a lot of vases of flowers that I take care of it. It's kind of becoming my hobby too. I even got some lemons that I can't wait to grow and eat. On my balcony, I am never alone. I have my sweet little one, my cat Bella. I am a dog person kind of type, but dogs are hard to keep inside. Our Bella has been so easy to live with. She is white and fluffy. She is sweet and caring and the best cuddle partner that I could ever ask for. I've had Bella for 3 years. It was a birthday present from my parents. Bella loves to stare out of our balcony too. She has a curious soul. Just like me. Sometimes I feel like we are the same soul but in different bodies. It's like she understands what I say. I hope she doesn't feel lonely. We have thought about getting another kitty, so she can have some company. But we haven't decided yet. Besides my cat Bella, I live, of course, with my 2 beautiful parents. I am their only child, and they always got me feeling special. They feel sorry that they never had the chance to give me a sister. But they could have other children. However, even though sometimes it's hard, I never complain in front of them. My mother's name is Emma, and she is a veterinary. I love visiting her at work and just petting all those beautiful animals. My mother is very gentle and kind, and the animals love her. It's like the animal notices a good soul and feels comfortable. My father, Jim, on the other hand, is a lawyer. His job is more stressful, and I barely understand some of it. There are nights that he comes late at night because he is at his office working. My parents live in 2 different worlds, but still, they get each other so well. I aspire to have a love like theirs. It breaks my heart to think that someday they will get old and that I won't have them forever. We, as a family, try our best to spend time together. We love Sundays. My parents don't work on Sunday, so we always go somewhere and spend time together. Besides my life at home, I also have a life outside of it. I go to school. I am a sophomore. I have one very close friend who happens to be my neighbor. Her name is Sarah. She makes high school easier. We go to school together. And we come back together. She is like a sister to me. Like everyone, I don't like school. But I try my best to study and do good in school. There are a lot of parties that my school organizes. There are times that Sarah and I go there. My parents don't mind, they trust me. I can't lie and say that I never tried alcohol because I did. However, I have never been 100% drunk. I am not the type of person that gets attached to things. Just because I might enjoy drinking at a party doesn't mean that I will continue to drink every day. I know when to drink and when not to. There are times when I buy a pack of cigarettes just because of curiosity. I enjoy smoking sometimes. But I know that I will never smoke it in the future. I have control of myself. When you go to these parties, a lot of stuff can happen if you are not very careful. A lot of my friends that go to my school do drugs. This scares me. Smoking and drinking don't make you cool. But I think that's how some of my friends think. Even though those parties might not be the best idea. I met someone special 1 year ago. I met a boy named Abel. We have been dating for a year now. We met at a party, then we found out that we were going to the same school. Abel is 1 year older than me. We know that we are young and that maybe we won't last. At least that is what they say. But I know that we love each other. Abel is straight out of a movie. He is the funniest person that I've ever met. He is my first kiss. And I want him to be my first everything. He is the reason why I haven't cut my hair for a year. He just loves it. We would go to the cinema and kiss for hours. My parents found out about Abel months ago. So they know that we are together. They respect my choices. And they believe in us. Even my parents were so young once they started dating. So I guess we are all right. Another good thing about New York is that you can wear whatever you want. And none would say a word. It's the city where you can show off your fashion and not be afraid of it. However, even at 16-year-old, life can be cruel and unpredictable. It had been months since I haven't felt like myself. I felt deep inside of me that something wasn't all right. I started not wanting to go out and meet with my loved ones. Sarah and Abel. I didn't have energy for anything. And I just wanted to be left alone. I wasn't eating, and I couldn't even finish an episode of my favorite TV show. This was all of a sudden. I don't know why it happened. Even my cat Bella started to notice it. She would come up at my legs and just stare at my eyes like she asked me if I was okay. But I wasn't. I was meeting up with Abel. But I couldn't even speak. Later, I got informed that Abel had spoken to my parents about this. They all thought that I was going through a depressive phase. But I knew that I wasn't that type of person. However, I decided to meet up with a psychologist since my parents told me to. Clearly, this wasn't helping me since I couldn't even get up from my bed. My parents weren't home most of the time. And I couldn't even go to school. I was home alone. So Abel used to sleep over at my apartment. One night we fell asleep on the balcony talking about our future. We talked about having sex. And we agreed that we would go for it the next time we meet with each other. We were going strong for a year. So why not? On a Sunday night, my mother came up to me and noticed that my head was burning from the temperature. We rushed to the hospital. And that's where the real sad story begins. I don't remember the ride to the hospital. But I remember waking up to a hospital bed. My mother had told me that the doctors made some tests. She said that the tests would arrive the next day and that today I had to sleep here. But I had other plans on my mind. Today, I should have been meeting up with Abel. It should have been our special night. But life works in mysterious ways. I guess. I've had the best sleep since I could remember that night. The next day I woke up to Abel texting me. He didn't know where I was. Last night he went to a party. He thought that I would meet him there. I couldn't help but think about who he was and who he met there. However, I texted and let him know that I was at the hospital. My mother and father seemed so worried that I couldn't understand why. The minute that the tests came, Abel knocked on the door and went in. He was standing near me. and I could hear the smell of the alcohol. He had been drinking yesterday, and I was just feeling jealous of what he could have been doing. The doctor was telling me the results of the tests, but I couldn't understand what was wrong. I looked at my mother's eyes, and I saw some tears. Then all of a sudden, I heard the word cancer. My parents started crying, but Abel and I were just shocked. The doctors said that it would be for the better if we started chemotherapy tomorrow. Chemotherapy, tomorrow, how could my life change in a second? I just wanted to get home, to my movies and to my cat. That night I barely slept. The next day came so fast. Abel wasn't here. He had to go to school. I already felt like we weren't so close. My doctors said that the chemo treatment would last between 3 to 6 months. But I was ready. I just wanted to get over it. I took the first dose of the first day. Can't say that I loved it. My parents took some weeks off of work and were staying there with me. Then, bad news after bad news. So, basically, if you're doing chemo, there is a chance that you're gonna lose weight and hair. Months went by, and things just got worse. My cancer was not getting better, and I was still taking the chemo treatment. I couldn't spend time with Abel or Sarah, and I missed falling asleep with Bella. Abel would come after school, but nothing was feeling the same anymore. I miss everything about my life. I am writing this on my hospital bed, wishing I was on my balcony. The doctor said that it's good if I start and take walks around the city. One day, I decided to do so. As I was getting ready, I noticed how bad I looked. I couldn't even notice myself anymore. I was so skinny, and half of my hair fell down. I was wearing a hat, but it was summer. I decided to go with my mother only. She thought that it would be a good idea if we called Abel. But I don't want Abel to see me this way. I went out and saw what I was missing out on. The sun was out, the world was full of colors. You should have seen the girls on their sundresses out for lunch. I felt like my soul had gotten older. That's when I decided that I shouldn't be your problem, Abel. I knew that I had to set Abel free. I know that he does not love me anymore. I wasn't the same person. I didn't look the same. He always used to say that he loved my hair. Now what? I didn't have any hair left. He should continue to live his life. He's young. I texted him so we could meet and say our goodbyes. That was the last time that Anita had written. She had actually passed that day. The cancer had covered her whole body. Her body's ashes are going to be on her favorite place, her balcony, so her soul can still watch over the beautiful sky of the city that never sleeps.
Hi, I'm Juliet. I make video skits. I call myself a professional until I found out that I am another tool created to be used. I know for sure that I am a talent to behold. I have the skills and talent to be a great social media influencer. I made a short video that was everywhere in college. The school management was proud of the kind of students I had become within a few months of studying. The future looked bright, but not a penny was given for my effort. I wanted to be famous, but what is the use of fame without a penny? I didn't regret the outcome of the event, but I wasn't proud of it either. This is the story of how I made the best short video yet but received no compensation for such wonderful creativity. I grew up in a house where people cherish their communication garget than real-life communication. Except, for my dad, he is extrinsic. While I was growing up, I didn't go along at all with my dad. We had different philosophies about life. I tried to impress him, but all my efforts are futile. So, as I grow older, we grow apart. Although, he always tries to make it up to me, my mind is made. If he doesn't like what I love, there is no reason for me to behave anything to do with him. Things went on that way until when I decided to go to the College of Art and Dramatics without even telling him about it. My mom was different. Although she loves gadgets too, she sees the point in what my father was saying. Howbeit, she encourages me to continue in my path. She usually says, once I am happy, she is happy as well. She motivates everyone in the house, even our dog, Garfield. I remembered when she was teaching Garfield toilet training. She did tell it that yes, you can make it, and did give it a star badge for every success it achieve. Garfield is such a lazy and uncooperative dog. God knows where my dad got that dad. The only friend it has is Jeff, my younger brother. Jeff is nice to everyone and everything in the house. Even the mouse in his room is now his buddy. My younger brother, Jeff, understands me the most. I guess because I was the one he grew up looking up to. We are 5 years apart. That is enough for me to be an influence on him. He did help me shoot my videos and assist me in the casting process. He got so good that he started giving me incredible ideas. Sometimes, I got jealous of his great minds, and sometimes, I am full of his praises. I thought I had finally seen someone close that we could do this together until he started showing interest in animals and nature. He told my dad he wanted to be a zoologist just like him. He then would go to the zoo with my dad instead of helping me shoot my videos. His love for animals and nature quickly grew to the extent that he quickly forgot all about video making, but even with his new interest, he was still my #1 fan. At school, things weren't going fine too. I remembered my presentation when I was a 2nd grader. I did a video with a pen and a pencil saying funny stuff about themselves. It was hilarious, but instead of my mates laughing at the comedy video they were watching, they laughed at me instead. It was the most embarrassing day of my life. Although the class teacher tried to console me and awarded my presentation the best out of the rest, that wasn't enough. It ruined my confidence until Jeff started showing interest in what others called my weirdness. Though, when I was younger, my parents shared my dream, but I later found out they were doing all those stuff because I was still a kid. Jeff was an angel sent from heaven. I could boldly say then that Jeff helped build my confidence. With the level of my video making, skills and intelligence put into it, I only did the video for myself and for the YouTubers to comment using a disguised identity. To date, I haven't done any presentations at school because I was afraid to eat the laughingstock once again. I was enjoying my life and things were going fine. I didn't care what people had to say about my videos. As far as I am concerned, the virtual viewers' comment is the priority. My mom was cool with my video making and my younger brother was still a fan. I tried to win my dad over but to no avail. I won't give up on pleasing him. He is my father. He must love what I love. I think I needed the fatherly love more than I had thought. The house was still on its routine where everyone get glued to their mobile phone or personal computer. My dad wasn't a fan of this. He still believes in the old ways. He usually says physical communication is the best. My mom was the only one that understands him. My younger brother was the most supportive, but not my dad and me. No, our paths never crossed even if we tried to. Trying to please each other always gets on one party's wrong side. We both felt left out. So, I decided to lock myself in and impress my viewers on YouTube and myself. Things were going on that way and no one thought it was something we needed to correct, except for Mom, whose face is affected by the shortcomings of the family. But she pretended she was fine with it, even though it is obvious she wasn't pleased with all. Yes, she must be seeing a therapist without other family members knowing about it because I don't understand how she gets along in our excesses so easily. One day, I was surfing the internet when I came across my school, the College of Arts and Dramatics. I made my findings and I realized the school was in for admission. I am opt-in for admission without telling my parents. I had my reasons. They are not fans of the career path I chose. I didn't just put in for the school because I was ready for college, but to have a genuine reason to leave home for good and move on with my life. But that wasn't the case later on. I guess that happens to every teenage girl at one point in life. A few months had passed, and I went to check the mailbox as my culture is. Most mails are usually for my dad and they are all about animals and pets expedition. They bore me. Jeff loved reading them. He is a fan of animal expenditure too. My mom just shoved them in the drawer and wait for dad to open his packages. But this time, one of the mail was for me. It was from the college I registered for. I was admitted to. I couldn't contain the happiness within. I quickly went for my bass guitar and played. I knew I was playing out loud and the neighbors might not be comfortable with the noise, but didn't care. I can't wait for everyone to get back home for me to share my great accomplishment. I shared the good news with Mom and Jeff immediately they got back home. She was happy for me. She changed immediately and jumped to the kitchen to cook my favorite. My younger brother wasn't too happy with the news. He thought he will end up being alone and he didn't want to. I tried my best to comfort him and told him I would call him every week to know how he is doing. I also told him he can do better by himself. He eventually changed his mood. While my mom and I were still getting the table set, my dad finally showed up. I told him about my new achievement before he could relax. He was too tired that night and showed no interest in my sayings. He congratulated me, but I could tell it wasn't real. He didn't eat with the family at the dining table that night. It was not a cause of alarm. That won't be the first time. Anytime he comes home late like that, he always prefers to eat in his room. I ate my food and went to my room in quite a hurry. I wasn't in my happiest mood anymore. My father's reaction changed my mood. I tried visiting the site to college again for updates since I might be resuming soon. While surfing through the site, I found a link that goes to the freshmen's page. I clicked on it out of curiosity, and that was my first move to transformation. I met some cool people on the webpage, who we quickly get along. It was as if they were waiting for me all my life. I couldn't believe what I met on the page. Everything came faster than I had thought. I realized I am not so weird either, just that people around me here just didn't get me. I found that I am sociable than I had thought of myself. I shared some of my old videos with the new friends I had made. They applauded my class. "Wow, you're good," commented Stephanie. Stephanie is my favorite of my 3 new digital friends. Stephanie was quite encouraging. We had shared so many ideas. She told me of her friend that had been admitted into the college as well. I wasn't interested in knowing her friends, but because she insisted, I adhered to the idea. I am not a crowd person, that I know for sure. Days became weeks and weeks, months. Finally, it is time to go to college. I had packed my things and Mom had gotten a few things for me too. I am prepared. I had messaged Stephanie and the crew, and we had planned our great entry into the institution. For the last few months, I had glued more with my virtual friends than my physical family. I made a short skit to say goodbye to my family. I assisted my mom to set the table. My father came in later in the evening. We all sat at the dining to take our last supper. I rushed to my room to get my laptop. I played the video for them before we start to eat. Mom and Jeff were impressed, but my dad, being my dad, was not impressed, not at all. He asked me, "How are you going to cater for yourself doing this? You need to plan for the future." Mom stepped on him. I noticed her doing so. I took my food and decided to take my meal alone in the room. The last night wasn't so nice. I wanted to make a good impression of myself before leaving, but my dad had other ideas. So bad, I quickly find comfort in the company of my virtual friends. I spent most of the time chatting with them. Dad also regretted what he did. Mom must have spoken with him. He came to my room to apologize, but I wasn't interested in his apologies. I locked my door from behind. He went back to the living room and started playing Disc of my childhood. I didn't care since I am still angry at him. The following morning, I had prepared my bags. I planned on taking public transport to college. I can't wait to get to college and leave the house where I was the odd one. But when I got to the living room, Mom and Dad had a new plan. They wanted to drive me to college, and my dad could make a remedy for his last night's attitude. Jeff was also in support of this. I am not surprised, and Jeff needed the family to be running smoothly because of his mental well-being. I was not pleased with the idea, but I accepted anyway. I determined not to talk to anyone until I get to college. Things were going as I had planned before my mom started tapping my dad. It got awkward that I was forced to ask, "What is going on?" Then my dad cleared his throat before apologizing about the night before. "It is fine," I replied and immediately plugged in my earpiece. Noticing that I wasn't moved by his apologies, he wanted to initiate talks about my childhood. My mom loves this part. I remember her telling me that all the decisions my dad made since I was born were because of me. He sold his old house to get a smaller apartment because of the cost. He left being a gym instructor to take a job at the zoo to have enough earning for his newly found family. All he wanted to be is a responsible father, a father that I would be proud of. But that wasn't the case. I think he was a little bit disappointed about what I had become. All I asked of him was just for him to support me, and that's all. He talked about how I was his little princess, my favorite colors and likes. I was not paying attention at first, but later I started laughing and responding to his jokes. He got me this time. This is the kind of father I love. He apologized again for the previous night. This time I was quick to forgive him. When we got to the countryside, he asked my mom to go to the back seat and asked me to come to sit at the driver's seat. He wanted to teach me how to drive. I think he had already planned this with the rest of the family, seeing Jeff smiling at me. Before that day, he had paid for my driving lessons, but I did fail on several occasions. It wasn't that I was doing it purposefully, I was just scared of getting hit or hitting someone else. I got to sit at the driver's side, but I was still scared. He calmed me down. "It is only you and me, no one else," he said. "All you have to do is to avoid the upcoming vehicle as you do in video games," he rejoined. I started quite slow. He encouraged me to do better. I increased the speed. I was being careful. He taught me the use of the gear. "We are not in a hurry," he said. Then my mind stroked back to my friends at the college. "No, I will miss the grand entrance we had planned," I said to myself. I wanted to hurry up, but I don't want to disappoint my dad this time. I continued driving, even though I was far slower than him. He encouraged me for being steady. I quickly learned a few tricks from him. I couldn't call myself a pro, but I was far above a novice at that point. I drove to college. Mom was just taking photos throughout the whole journey. We branched at some places on the way, mostly due to Jeff's demands. Before we got to school, Jeff requested we stop at a museum. The museum had so many antiques and historical facts, bad enough, we were not allowed to take photos of those things we saw. It was worthwhile, but we couldn't have anything for the great sight. As we exit the museum, Mom called everyone for selfies. She took a couple of shots, then we continued our journey. Now, at the college, I couldn't believe I would miss the same family I had planned my whole life to leave. I shared a big hug with my family. Mom, being mom, took another photo of me. They were not in a hurry to leave. Jeff requested I hug Garfield for the last time. I sounded weird, but I couldn't believe I complied. It was a happy and sad moment at the same. I waved bye-bye to them and they left. I turned around and looked in the huge building in front of me. This is the new beginning I had been waiting for, I said to myself. My life was about to change forever. As I was about to step into the hallway, I remembered my days at high school. Although most students saw me as being weird, they respect my abilities. I was made the head of the school media unit when I was just a 10th grader. There were some seniors in the club, but my skills placed me above them all at that level. I love being at the microphone station where I am privileged to announce for the school. I assisted the principal and the school board whenever they are involved in social meetings. My position got me close with Mr. Hartman, the school principal. We bonded a lot. I had so many reasons to go to his office. I went to his office often, both on official duty and frivolous ones. Except for the day I had to go to his office for him to place me on probation because I was involved in a fight with a bully. That was Billy, the obese bully, deceived by his size. I beat him. He went home to call his parents. He was asked to stay home for a week, but my dad pleaded my case well. I was only placed on probation. I guessed because I was a girl. While I was on probation, although I stepped down from my position as the head of the school media unit, I still helped whenever I was called upon. For sure my absence will be noticed. I was the head for 3 straight years, the first of its happening. No one had been the head of the media team more than a year, but I was for 3 years. I might be anything else, but I am sure I am humble. Even though some were jealous of my praise and fame, for instance, Kathy, my classmate, and subordinate when I was in my final years. She made a group of her own that antagonizes the progress of the core group. She was almost successful, but not successful, of course. The majority of the group were in my support and we did things the way it should be done. After several trials, she stopped being a rebel and joined hands with me. I accepted her without questioning her. To be truthful, I questioned her loyalty at first, but when I realized she was in for good this time, I opened my hands wide to accept her. That was my dream for college too. I knew I was good, and to date, there has not been any unprofessional video maker greater than me that I know of. I walked through the hallway as all freshmen would walk. I was nervous and I kept looking at everything on the hallway. The guys quickly found out that I was a freshman. Hey, preschool, some would say. Hello, newbie, some others would say. At every greeting, I waved back at them. Unlike high school, people here are so nice. I was 2 hours late from the grand entrance I had planned with Stephanie and the rest of the crew, Adam and Dave. I don't want to call them, since it is obvious they were already disappointed. They didn't call and I took it for what it was. They were not happy with me. The hallway is filled with historical facts about the institution. I was surprised that most of the popular Hollywood film directors and producers were graduates of this institution. My soul almost jumped off my body. I tried my best to keep cool, but it was easy for the other students to find out that I was new. I guessed it was easy for them because they acted the same way on their first entrance. As I was walking down the hallway, I was trying to find another freshman like me. I was almost at the end of the long lobby when I saw some students rushing towards the edge. I asked one of them what was happening. She said all freshmen are asked to come to the hall. Finally, I had something to do. I sat beside the new girl in the hall. Since I had been at the college, I had not seen my proposed friends yet. Hi, I said to the strange new girl, I am Juliet. May I know you? I asked. She replied in a very funny tone, Hey, Juliet, I'm Elizabeth, but you can come to me, Liz or Lizzie, just as you wish. Wow, this could be talkative I would have to run away from, I said to myself. After a series of welcome presentations, the provost, Professor Dixon, eventually showed up. Throughout the presentations, Liz wasn't paying attention. She easily found comfort in my company. I didn't want to ignore her, that would not be polite of me. But babe, I am not interested, can't you see? I noticed some glitches in the video projection. I called Liz's attention to them, and the girl did not care. All she wanted to do is to socialize. Then, I broke it to her. Babe, I am not the social type, I said. She smiled and said back to me, I am not as well, but I am working on that. I laughed at her. I tried not to create a scene. Then, you're doing it wrong. She laughed back. How did you know? You're not good at socializing too. She asked. I know how to do it wrong, I said jokingly. I guessed she succeeded in making me talk eventually. We soon generate some chemistries. And I like her. There was a sudden silence at a moment. We looked up, and there she was, the provost. She introduced herself as Professor Mary Dixon. She said so many things, but more than half of the assembly wasn't interesting. Liz and I were lost in our discussion. I guess Professor Dixon found out, but she did not care. She told us to go visit the portals to get the keys to our rooms for the next 3 years. She called it a day and we all left the auditorium. I lost contact with Liz. I quickly regretted it. I should have collected her phone digits, I said to myself. I got my keys and went straight to my new hostel. I got to the room. My room is room M3. The door was ajar, for sure someone is inside. I entered the room in curiosity, and lo, that's her right there, Yvonne. Yvonne is an African American. She looked more like a model than a filmmaker. During productions, she gets herself easily into the main role because of her beauty. But don't doubt her ability, she is a good actress. Hello, I greeted her. She didn't respond, she was making up her face. She had already gotten aside, set up her things. There are so many pinks in her things. It was as if I meant Barbie in real life. I took the bed furthest to her because I don't want to get unnecessarily close to her. As I was about to lie on the bed and take my phone to call Stephanie, someone knocked at the door. May I? The voice from behind the door asked. Yes, of course, I replied. The person entered. It was Liz. I was euphoric to see her once more. How did you get to know this is my room? I asked her in curiosity. Because the room is mine as well, I said with joy. She set her things up and lay on her bed. We kept talking, then Yvonne finally said something. Hi girls. I will be going to a party now, I might not return tonight. Please don't touch my stuff, and she left. Wow, that girl is a bitch. Later that night, when Liz had slept and Yvonne wasn't back home, I took my phone and called Stephanie. She apologized for being such a bitch. She had been busy selling her talent since she resumed. She told of a video making board where the best video made is auctioned. She promised to come over to my room the next morning. The night became day, Yvonne wasn't back. Liz and I were in filmmaking department. That meant we will have to go to class together every day. We got dressed and Stephanie showed up. Stephanie wasn't in the same department as we, she is in the film directing department. We promised to see later after class. Days become weeks, then months. We later found out that Yvonne's hobby is making out. She had shared the bed with almost 25 guys since we resumed. I once overheard some guys speak of how good she is. A guy said she can make a guy last 2 hours. She is so good that you will want to stay there forever. One said her private part is like honey, so sweet. Disgusting. Liz is a bright student. In the first few weeks, she is the leading student by a big margin. I later found out that she wanted to be a medical doctor, but her guardian encouraged her to learn filmmaking first since she's still very young. Unlike me, I choose filmmaking against the wish of my parents. For the past few weeks, I had been following Stephanie to the boardroom. I watched how things are been done. Stephanie had earned over $100 since she started. Wow, so I can make money here. I made a video. The video lasted a week, and shared it with the board administrator. He loved the video and shared it with some of his friends. Before 3 weeks my video was everywhere. The school management loved it. They kept sharing and re-uploading. Last night, my mom calced me that she was the video I made. My dad was proud of me, but the sad news was that it wasn't auctioned. I didn't make a penny from the video, but I became famous as I wanted to be. No award, compensation, or recommendations. It was a futile effort. I guessed I was not professional enough. What do you think?
This story takes place in the heart of France, Paris. Paris is one of the most romantic places ever to exist. They call it the city of love. Is it really, though? I am Iris, and this month I'll be turning 18-year-old. I was born, and I have lived all my life in Paris. When talking about Paris, the thing that comes to our mind is Eiffel Tower. Streets crowded with tourists, beautiful little coffee shops, and the list goes on. However, what people don't know is that one of Paris's best-kept secrets is the countryside. That's where I live. It's a tiny piece of heaven tucked away in the 20th arrondissement of Paris known as La Campagnie à Paris. I love where I live. The views are straight from a movie. Each building is unique and quirky with gentle pastel colors and paved, cobbled paths. It's nothing like the rest of Paris. In a good way. Life is easy here. My school is only some blocks away from my house. My friends' houses are near too. But the most awkward thing about where I live is that my neighbor is my ex-boyfriend. His name is Louis. Louis was great in everything that a girl could ask for. A great smile, tall, respectful. But he was too good. When I see that the person I'm dating is way too much into me, I tend to stand back. We never argued, and there was never drama. And this kind of makes me get bored of it. I want my relationship to be exciting, with ups and downs, as it should be. I want someone to disagree with me, not just agree with everything I say, like they don't have an opinion on their own. However, I don't know if I can call him my ex-boyfriend because it was more like just a summer fling. We dated the whole of last summer. I get a feeling that he is still not over me. But what can I do? I get bored so easily. And it's actually a serious problem. Do you know that feeling when you are in summer and feel so vulnerable? You feel like you are free to do anything. A new hair color, a new tattoo, a new piercing. Sometimes even a new boyfriend. Ugh, I miss summer right now. Winters can be so depressive. And I can't even wear what I want to wear. I love wearing crop tops and letting my stomach out a little bit. This is the last year of high school. Next year, God knows where I'll be because I still don't even know what I want to study in college. However, I am excited for this year. We have prom, and also I have to pass my driving license. I hope Louis doesn't ask me to be his prom date because that would be awkward. I don't know about the country you live in, but prom is usually the night for couples to lose their virginities here. I wouldn't wait for prom night, but I still haven't found someone special yet. Call me old-fashioned, but I don't want to lose my virginity with someone like Louis. For example, I aspire to have some deep-level connections with someone. Every day is the same day at our school. It's like déjà vu. All over again. But, one day, one random Thursday, a new boy came into my class. He walked and then sat without even starting at anyone. He was tall, dark-skinned, curly hair. The teacher made him introduce himself. Apparently, his name is Aaron. During the lunch break, all the girls were all over him. I knew this would happen. But, I am not this kind of girl. I like to look uninterested. That's my secret to making someone interested in me. Days went by, and we didn't even talk. But, I could notice some stares here and there. I saw how he was talking to the other girls. And I could tell that he wasn't just like any other guy. He was mysterious until one day. Aaron decided to come out of his shell and actually talk to me. He goes, "Where can I eat something good around here?" I told him about my favorite place where I get food every day. He said, "Wanna ditch the classes and go eat something?" How could I say no? I wanted to know about this guy. He said to meet outside. I went outside of school. And here he was, waiting for me. Smiling. We started walking and talking. There was a vibe already. We go into the store and sit on the corner by the window. Then he orders for me without even asking what I'd want. He said, "Trust me." That was attractive. We talked about our favorite movies, our first kisses and so on. I didn't notice how many hours had passed until my mother called me. We decided to leave. He put his hand around my waist and whispered in my ear, "See ya." My walk home had me questioning myself. Why didn't he ask for my number? Guys usually ask for my number immediately. Maybe he truly was different from the other guys. It had been days since our little date. And we didn't even share a word at school. I was avoiding him in the hallway at this point. Then, someone texted me. A text said, "Same spot. At 2 p.m. Was that Aaron? Well, yeah, for sure. I was in a dilemma about going or not. I decided to go there. He was sitting on the same spot as that day. I went inside, and he gave me a little kiss on the cheek. It got me off guard. He had already ordered for me again. This time, he asked if I had a boyfriend. And I said no. I didn't ask him. And he said, "Don't you want to know if I have a girlfriend?" I said, "Do you?" He said not yet and started smiling. Aaron said, "You're gonna go to prom with me," and started smiling. I didn't say anything. I just laughed it off, trying to play it cool. He was staying a little bit too near me. I could smell his perfume, and I could feel the warmth of his breath as he was talking to me. At this point, I just wanted him to kiss me. But he didn't. That's how our second date ended. As I was walking home, I saw Louis, the ex. He said that he wanted to talk to me, and I said sure. He started holding my hand, asking me to go to prom with him. I said no and told him that I'd made plans with someone else. He seemed angry and wanted to know who the guy was. "Why would you care?" I said. He said that he wanted to know so he could fight the guy. I immediately started laughing, but he seemed to be talking seriously. Knowing that Louis probably still loves me, I was worried. I was worried about what would happen. I didn't want anything to affect my relationship with Aaron. We had a good start. It was almost prom night, and everyone was starting to freak out. I still didn't have any idea of what I was gonna wear. As I talked with my girls about some dresses, I got a text. Aaron had texted me saying, "Meet me after school." So, that's what I did. We met. He said that today we're going to find our prom outfits. At first, I was like no. But then he got me into it. We went to a couple of stores. And nothing. It was my time to try for some dresses. He was the one picking the dresses for me. Every time I went out from the wardrobe with a dress, Aaron had this look on his face. It was clear that he liked me. There was a lot of tension between us. We both could feel it. Then, I came across a black dress with an open leg. I tried it, and I loved it. It was time to show it to Aaron. You should have seen his face. He was speechless. He came near me and said, "This is the one," and kissed me. I think my cheeks got red for a second. Then, it was his turn to try for a suit. Every time he was trying suits, he would come out shirtless. He was showing off. But I loved it. We got our clothes, and I could say that it was one of the best dates I've ever been with. The day of the prom came, and here I was, getting ready. Aaron was waiting outside my house. But then he came inside because he wanted to say hi to my parents. He was looking so good. I just wanted to kiss him, but I couldn't in front of my parents. The moment we got in the car, we gave each other a little kiss. We arrived at prom, and everyone was looking at us. I heard that Louis couldn't find a date. I saw him. He was standing in a corner alone. I felt bad for a second. Hours went by, and Aaron and I were having the best time. Aaron is so easy to stay with. As we were slow dancing, I saw Louis coming at us. He pushed Aaron to the ground. Aaron seemed confused. He didn't know who Louis was. He heard me saying, "Louis, stop." Aaron said, "You know this fool," and then he punched him in the face. The security got us out, and I was shaking. I told him who Louis was, but he didn't seem to care. He was just worried if I was okay. So, basically, Louis got so jealous he decided to do this. But he didn't ruin our prom night. Things just got better from there. I realized how mature Aaron is and that I could love him. We weren't allowed to get back at prom. So we got to the car. Aaron said, "I got an idea. Let's get to my place." He said that he was home alone. It was too early to end this night. So we went to his home. We stayed in our prom outfits and decided to watch a movie. He was touching my hair and kissing my forehead. We both fell asleep in that way. We got up at the sound of my mother calling me. So, he drove me home. As I was walking to the door of my house, I saw Louis there. He was talking to my parents. What could he be saying? Sorry for last night. He better be. I got closer, and I noticed that my parents were angry. My mother said to me, "Get in the house," as Louis ran to his home. Apparently, Louis told my parents that I spent my night at a guy's house. How could he know? He probably stalked us. He is a psycho. I had no other solution than to tell my parents the truth. If I told them that I didn't do anything bad, they still wouldn't believe me. They said to me, "You're grounded." They took my phone and said that I wasn't allowed to go out before and after school. How could I keep in touch with Aaron? I was so mad at Louis. I bagged the door and fell asleep. The next day came. It felt like forever. I was excited to meet with Aaron. We meet up, and I tell him everything that has happened. He said that he wanted to fight Louis, but I begged him not to. Aaron said that it's for the best if he goes and talks with my parents. He insisted. I said, all right, why not? I told my mother that Aaron wanted to talk to them, and she asked me to call him for dinner at our house. So, that is what we did. My parents seemed to love him. Well, who couldn't love him? We had so much fun. My mother said that it's okay if I sleep over at Aaron's since his parents are working at night. I was surprised she let me. But I guess they noticed what kind of a guy Aaron is. So, we went to his house. We both could sense that we felt a little nervous, like something would happen. We started kissing, and then he went, "Are you sure you want to do this?" I kissed him instead of an answer. Things led to another, and we did it. We were closer than never now. I felt safe. We said our first, I love yous. I love the fact that he was the first one that said it. Even though we are in our teenage years, I know for sure that love will always be between us two. We are excited to see what life brings ahead of us. There's nothing better than being free, young, and in love.